collaborate.
when I realized
and
that.
then they watch them and talk about them, and it's just.
It's like on the microphone.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they show
I
I
noticed
stuff,
it.
and it's
I was
really, really
helping
funny.
test it.
And they're definitely just like
Whoops.
dudes, but they're not.
I love that thing.
They're not annoying or like
That's an old
MRA guys
Neil
or
Feather.
anything. And then they
contraption.
like also review new movies, and then they'll talk about old movies that they like. I recommend them.
Okay.
It's fun. I found a lot of good movies that I like from them.
Cool. That's good. I'm always looking. So I go to be on video every
Kirby,
week.
you gotta get closer to the table.
Or pretty much every week.
Yeah.
It can be hard to
there we
figure
go.
out
What a tableau.
Yeah.
to pick.
You know, a lot of times I just grab whatever. I'll try this.
Oh, we can
And that's
we
the
can make it
classic way to go to a
taller
video
too
store,
with
is just
something.
be like,
Usually we like you can take
Right.
that big
I've
bottle
heard
or
of this,
something.
or like,
Yeah.
well, that cover looks good. Why not?
There's a box.
Yeah,
Never
for
mind.
sure.
No! You're doing my
Instead of like,
I'm gonna do it with the people's history of the United States and
Yeah.
what is the best
She's
movie
using
that I
those
fucking
books, though.
love?
That's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, then you're just putting thought into that. instead of
Ooh,
just
now
experiencing
it's
it.
like we're in a Batman villain hideout in the
Checking it out.
60s.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Ooh, man, I love those. I love
Godspeed.
that old
Yeah.
Batman shit, man.
Yeah?
I grew up watching that.
That's the best Batman.
I agree.
Definitely.
I
It's
disagree.
the only
I
good
think that the
Batman.
animated series is the best Batman.
Oh.
I
Oh,
think
that's
the
like
animated
close
You
second.
series-
there could be a
They're very
debate about
different.
that, a very thrilling debate.
Right.
I haven't watched the animated one enough to answer that.
I mean, the first couple of seasons is just like the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons, and I just think they're beautiful
I
with
thought-
amazing music.
I never knew about those, but yesterday I saw a clip from one and it looked gorgeous. It
It's
was
so
amazing.
beautiful. The Max Fleischer, it's
Well, you
it's
know,
amazing.
they drew it on black paper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, no,
you
yeah.
can tell. That makes sense.
So yeah, anything else would be on white paper. They were animating it on black with mostly black.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, the gradients and everything
It
are
looks
really
sweet.
beautiful.
great animation.
I was really impressed. I was like,
It's very faithful.
oh, I got the vapors.
I watched a thing about old Max Fleischer stuff, and he would make like models for the backgrounds that he would film, so that he could like rotate them, and that would.
Yeah, all the
Change
Max.
papers. It-
Yeah,
it's
the Fleischer
really-
Bros animation is just like stunning. Uniformly stunning.
Wait,
At
what
least
did
it was on
what
the
did
floor.
they animate? What is this? I never. I don't.
It was funny.
I'm not
It's
aware.
sort of,
It's
it's
like
sort of like a
Popeye.
classic.
Just because it goes like-
Fleischer Brothers.
They did like Betty Boop and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like, but there are these videos that they did. They did a lot of like interesting. They did a lot of really interesting method stuff. They did some like rotoscoping.
They did a lot of.
There's this one video that you've maybe seen where it's like an animated video for what is it, Saint something Penitentiary Blues, the Cat Calloway song, and they
I've seen
rotoscope. They rotoscope this like ghost over Cab Calloway. Like they took a video or not video, it's like film of Cab Calloway dancing and performing this song. They just rotoscope this cool looking ghost over it, and then St. James Infirmary Blues. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Worth watching.
That's cool. Speaking of
Oh, are we
fantastic,
on the internet?
these
We're on the
bagels,
internet.
bagels
Oh,
are
hi.
really good too, Jen. If you want to give a shout out, where did these come from?
The only
THB.
upsettingly the only
No,
bagel in town, only good bagel in town is THB.
I had no idea. This is the best THB I've ever had.
Well, no, their bagels are good.
Are they?
Is the thing.
I've gone. Okay.
There's
They have
no
other things that
other
are
good.
bad?
There's just no other good
I think I
bagels
have a
in
bad
Baltimore.
opinion of them because I went there and got the vegetarian sandwich one time, and it was like the saddest sandwich I'd ever had in my life. It was like
No, you gotta just get the bagel.
I'm strictly talking about the
right,
bagel
the bagel
itself.
Going-
itself. Yeah,
and
okay.
Actually,
Going
their
into-
whitefish is pretty good.
Going into a THB is always a nightmare.
a little bit.
Yeah.
The one in Towson, or actually not even the one in Towson, the one in like Timonium. Every time is like
It's hell. Yeah.
absolute hell. It takes 30 minutes.
Well, the
to
only
just get
yes, the
bagel.
only thing you can do, the only way you can survive THB, which by the way, this one here,
You can survive.
those
Seriously.
of us who work at the
No, I know.
museum, we call this one BHB, because it's not in Towson.
Mhm.
But anyway, but the way that you survive it is you order ahead and you just pick it up.
Yeah, that's my.
Like
that's the way
it's
that I
just
do
so
it.
hellish
In
in
and
there,
Yeah.
unless you
crazy.
want to go into like full every so often we'll do like the full experience and just sit upstairs
Yeah.
and eat in there, and it feels like you're in a
Mhm.
like freaky
Mhm.
college
This one-
cafeteria
when the one
with
over-
the worst music
Yeah,
that's
and it's
ever
like-
It
been.
fucking sucks.
It's
Just
It's
screams everywhere.
incredible how
you
bad
can
the
barely
music
hear,
is in there.
you know, it's
It's
like
so loud, yeah.
But they have a good bagel.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
the one this one that's
The
over
things we
by
do.
Hopkins, when they first opened, Madison and I went there a couple of times, and they like we went once, and Madison saw like, oh, they got like an espresso machine. I'll order.
Yeah,
an
nope.
Amer-
Don't
I'll
do
order-
that.
I'll order an espresso, and then we watched this person who had clearly never made espresso before try to do it, and then we got
I've
the
been in that
coffee, and
position.
we had to give it back. Like we're not like would almost never do that, but we were like, hey, can we can I just get some drip coffee? Like this
Yeah.
is
What's your return
this,
policy?
yeah, like this is just brown water. Like you didn't make it right.
oh, like they did like a full cup or something from the.
I don't know what it just didn't. I think they
Didn't
like
work.
didn't tamp it or anything, so
Oh,
it probably
God.
just like all the water just like went straight through. And
Oh,
didn't
like
brew
no
at all.
pressure.
Yeah, there's like no
Oh,
pressure on it,
goodness.
so it was just brown water. It was terrible. We felt bad because like they're super fucking busy. We shouldn't have. Just never make THB make your espresso. It's not
No,
good for
like no,
anybody.
just get a bag of bagels and get
There you
out.
go.
Yeah.
But their whitefish is
I
also
love
good.
that. Okay.
Their whitefish is good.
Yeah, I
Well,
need
they
to try
just
that.
they just get it from somewhere, right? So maybe
I don't
The
know. I
ocean.
don't know.
Yeah.
What is
It's a Towson hot
THB
bagel
stand for?
fishing
Towson
boat.
hot bagel.
And then what does the B
Yeah.
stand for?
Baltimore.
They're out there.
Every
getting the white
morning.
fish, Yeah.
THB.
But if it sucks so bad, then BHB should be butthole bagels.
What did
But the bagel is
no
good.
no Benny says it stands for big hot balls or big hairy balls or something like that.
I read an interesting tweet the other day where a mom was saying, the school said that my kid had to be potty trained in order to come to kindergarten, but they didn't say that I had to get her to stop calling the toilet seat the butthole.
That's a pretty
That's
good
true.
name for it.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely true. That's a fact. She doesn't have. There's no rule that says.
I mean, that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hole for your butt.
It makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense when you think
I
about
like
It really does.
I
The
might-
butt-
Out of the mouth of babes.
Yep.
Yeah, always
Yeah.
more accurate
Yeah,
that way.
spitting truth.
Yeah.
Straight into the butthole.
I don't know how to segue that into chapter 9 victory.
No
I
bubbles.
barely understood this chapter. It's like the third time I've read it, and I'm just like I kind of know. I know like okay, this happens over here, and this goes over here.
He's
but, like,
dropping a lot of weird shit in.
We're now farther into this book than I've ever read, and I haven't read ahead. So I'm still experiencing this as a newborn right now. So
Cool.
so this is new for me from
Me
this
too.
point. I think I had abandoned this in my last read of this book, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, or whenever, just before we started meeting. I had read this book and stopped right around here. So now I'm like, ooh, this is kind of cool, and
I really
pushing Silk into the hole there is
Yeah, what?
surprising.
It's
so
to
I'm-
avoid
I'm-
an explosion, right?
I
He's saving
think
him from a.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's pushing him into the like side cave or whatever.
Yeah, because he hears something
Yeah.
burned right next to them. and
That's what I
she's sure
I
it's a
think.
bomb.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so too.
It's okay.
I have
mean,
to say,
It was written interestingly.
one of my favorite things about this chapter is how there's so much Quetzal in it, and just like how it's so funny. It's like every time you read it, there's like more vampire things.
Yeah.
But
Is
my
Quetzal
favorite
reading-
one, my
He's
favorite
being
one,
so upfront in this one too. Like he's just like
my favorite one that I noticed this time is where he said, where he says, the mingle, his robe of mulberry velvet contributing the mingled smells of frankincense and something else. I just love that. This something else is like so fucking good. I just love that.
Yeah.
Something else.
He keeps describing his head bobbing
Yeah.
and his movements being slow. where
And
it
his
sounds
hands being boneless and bloodless.
Like, yeah, he says boneless more than once.
And bloodless.
It seems like Quetzal's kind of like losing his whole costume.
Yeah, he's like kind of a.
Oh, because he's been away from. He probably hasn't fed in a long time.
Yeah, it seems like he's getting
he-
like,
Not since book one.
His makeup is probably
No.
No,
So
he,
is there a
No,
book
he's
too?
fed
In the
on.
alley.
Yeah, he
Right.
fed on like
Fed in the
somebody
alley.
during the war.
I don't
And he
remember where things
disappears.
occur in each.
He disappears
book.
at some point in this chapter.
Wait, during the war?
Yesterday, the day before in the story, he fed on that one dude in the
Yeah,
alleyway.
When
Silk
there
goes
is
in the alley.
Silk is like they're like in a shop or something,
Yeah.
like hiding out in a shop or something, and then he finds Quetzal in the alley, like bent over someone, and he's like, oh, he's giving him the benediction or
I don't
something,
remember
but then
that.
he's not dead.
And then he
Yeah.
like disappears.
yeah.
Yeah.
He like flies
Yeah,
away.
it happened
Yeah.
pretty recently.
Yeah, like it just happened. But he is like, it does seem, like he's kind of like
His makeup's coming off.
dematerializing a little
It's
bit.
like, did he read Silk's mind? Like, does he have mind reading powers a little bit?
I think so.
Maybe a little bit. It seems. It's like it's interesting that it's dropped in there and it's written like that.
Does it-
It's like Silk has his thoughts and then Quetzal picks up on it and he's like, "Oh, I saw it on your face." That could be.
It's
But
too specific
It's
of a
a
plot.
specific thought.
The other
Do we think
possibility is that
Quetzal-
Silk did say it out loud.
The other
Right,
possibility is
that's-
that Quetzal drinks Silk's blood.
That's what I think
Yeah.
it means.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that-
what I think it
shit.
I
means.
think that's what it
You're-
means. Is
I
he's
bet you're right.
tasted some silk.
Yeah.
What does that mean, though? I mean, what is the implication?
The kind of vampire that Quetzal is. When you eat somebody, you become them.
Oh, you get to be them a little bit.
Yeah.
So Gene Wolfe, I love this. Okay.
And that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's like a
Short Sun, baby.
Yeah, it's like the crux of the
Yeah.
last trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Man, I was reading this last night
It's
or
been
the
a
night
couple
before.
Cannot wait.
Your copy's really
Yeah.
good.
Yes,
Oh,
I was reading this
Thank
last
you.
night or the night before,
that
and I was
reminds me.
having this
I gotta
like
try.
I was having this stress moment where I was like, God, I really want to, because I read Short Sun and then I started back into it and I read like maybe a quarter or a little less than a quarter, like right at like, and then I just
Soy,
stalled
yeah,
and I
sorry.
haven't gotten back to it, and I was just like, oh, I'm so mad I didn't finish Short Sun the second time, and I was like really upset about it, and then I remembered that we're gonna have to like wait for everyone to read it before we can talk about it, so maybe I'll get another like whole, I don't know. Anyway,
I can't wait.
I don't think you could ever read those. I mean, I've only
Yeah.
read it once, but I don't think it could be possible to read them enough times.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know, but that's
Like-
I'm like mad that I'm mad that I didn't finish it when I started it the second time
Oh, I see.
because I could be on my third.
You don't have to
Already.
start from the beginning.
Well, I'm just gonna pick up wherever I stopped.
Wherever you want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But there is, I have to feel like with Gene, there is like still, even though it's not, there's like nothing even remotely sequential about Short Sun, and it's completely insane. I
No.
do have to feel like there's like a purpose to the ordering of the telling of it.
Yeah, I agree.
But
it
Totally.
which makes me want to read
I
it
don't
twice.
think
the
you
straight-
necessarily have to read it. I mean, I would recommend reading it through the first time.
Yes.
But after that, the more used to it you are, I don't
You
think
can
you have
just
to
drop
read it
in.
in
Yeah.
order.
Pick up and read.
It's like Dahlgren
Mhm.
is written so that you could theoretically start reading it at any point. in the
Right.
book.
The Illuminatus trilogy.
I think Dahlgren is the one that I.
Yeah.
Is Dahlgren the one with the like teenager who's like.
Is he a teenager?
There
Or
are
whatever,
some,
who's kind of like a
teen street
brat.
gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, I tried to read that fucking book.
Same.
I
I
started
couldn't
it.
do it. I was like, I hate this fucking book.
Yeah. I started it.
And I like
twice.
Delaney, like I like him generally, but
Oh.
I tried to read that shit,
It took me.
and
it
I
took
was
me 2
like,
tries
I
on Dahlgren.
hate this. I'm not fucking finishing this
I didn't
book.
hate it, but I put it down after like.
I'm not. I
Is
can't
that
do
say
it.
about like a trucker who's like raping people all the time?
No,
Which one is that?
I don't
That's
know.
Delaney, I think.
Dahlgren is.
It's like
It took. It
it's
took,
like
it
it's
took me a
never.
couple of
It's so
tries.
fucking long,
It's very long.
and it's just like I
That's a
know.
funny thing to complain about here.
no. That book is like
It
So
feels
long
you
in
really,
and of itself
Yeah.
is not a problem. It's too long.
you really experience the heft of it.
It's like some books shouldn't be long, and that is one.
I'd
I
say-
probably would have finished it if it was like a third of the length, and you probably could have done whatever the
So
fuck
I'll
he's
say,
doing.
Like I really love Dahlgren,
Ugh.
but I also totally understand like, anybody having a hard time with it.
I think
there's
those are the two reactions to Dahlgren.
Yeah.
There's other Delaney I think that is like
It is.
Yeah.
way more like accessible. Like
Yeah.
it's way more like that gets a lot of the same stuff, but you can kind of like hop right into it. Like Empire Star is really good, or Babel 13 or Nova, like all of those. You can
Yeah, I
kind of just,
loved
like,
Nova.
yeah, Nova rules. Such a good book.
That was the first one I ever
Hog,
read by
that's
him.
the one I'm thinking of.
Hog?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I haven't read that one.
It's like all about rape.
Yeah, I just found it very like. I just felt like very disturbed by it, and like I wasn't getting anything for that in exchange for being disturbed. Like I just felt like I was only disturbed and like put off, and like I hated all the characters, and I wasn't like getting anything for it. Is how I felt when I was reading
so
it.
much for me. Like I just like getting into the setting like really kind of pushed me through.
I mean, I could appreciate that.
Yeah, like I'm not always into this like, well, you know, the city really is a character.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like,
It's
and
coming
I
back
wouldn't
to
even
now.
say that necessarily about Dahlgren, but like I feel like the setting of it is so like it's so evocative. It's so like interesting, but also like familiar. I don't know. I will defend Dahlgren, but
I
also
just don't-
So
I
fuck
also-
you.
I just don't get.
You don't have to like it. It's
I
fine.
just don't get why it couldn't have been half the length. Like,
It probably. Could
I
have
think
been.
I probably
more
would
money.
have liked it if it was half
Well,
the
for
length.
me, like I basically
Get
read
paid by
half
the
of
word.
it, and I was like, I love this, but I can't keep reading it. And then like a year later, I read the second half of it.
I started it at the beginning of this year, and I made a dent in it. But then I think like I picked up another book, and it just sort of like fell to
It's,
the
I,
wayside.
it's
Yeah.
very
It's
challenging.
very easy to discard.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't compelling me to read. This isn't asking me to. Like,
I think it probably does work best as a thing that you kind of pick up and put down and just like come back to. Like that, I
yeah,
think.
I
that-
keep meaning to.
Yeah,
pick it up again.
if you're trying to get through
A
all
TV
of
show,
it,
not a movie.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, if you're trying to get through all of it at once, that it is like it's kind of oppressive.
I was listening to it on an audiobook actually
Oh.
on a long cross country train ride.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't get into that. Some stuff I just like can't. I started trying when we were when I was driving to Canada. I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to Left Hand of Darkness, and I got like 20 minutes into it. I'm like, this is not how I want to experience this book.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
I can
it's-
see that.
I do
It-
think there's something to
it ain't-
reading that book.
It ain't right. Like there are books that I really like listening to on audio tape, and I think they just can't be that serious.
yes.
I
Like,
was listening
Discworld
to.
books are really fun. to
Yeah,
listen
Left
to.
Hand is so like slow and cinematic in this way. I could
Yeah.
imagine that being a bad audiobook.
Or like I tried to read Egypt, the John Crowley book, or like with an I tried to listen to it, and I listened to a lot of it, and it's fun. Like it's very like the language of it's pretty accessible, but at the same time, like I love like the way Crowley writes prose so much that the whole time I'm like, I just wish I was reading this. I just want to be reading these words and not listening to them.
Yeah.
And then I did read it instead of listening to it, and it's fucking phenomenal. So.
I was listening to the Song of Ice and Fire. Is that the first one?
Yeah, those are pretty decent audiobooks.
And I think
Yeah.
that was a good move. I
I
didn't
think-
finish it because it's like 24 hours
It is
long
really
or something.
Who reads it?
I don't know.
I would not want to hear George R.R. Martin read.
He does it. He does it. It's Roy.
guy-
He's got a horrible.
The guy who
It's Roy
reads-
Dotrice, and he does a fantastic job.
he's good.
I'd
I
say,
don't know who that
I
is.
think I listened to the first book of that, like the whole. I think I experienced that book in audio form. I probably maybe the second one also was doing it on road trips. I think I read Storm of Swords, which is good because that's the best one.
You've been watching Hot D.
No, I don't give a shit.
It's real
It's
pretty.
good.
It's hard to care.
I
do
haven't.
not care.
It's
I haven't
very
watched
pretty.
the whole thing yet, but I have enjoyed it. I didn't really care for Game of Thrones, but I'm enjoying this show slowly.
There are things about the show Game of Thrones that I really liked, and things that improved on the books. I think substantially because the books are. I mean, talk about too long. Like there are whole books in that series that didn't need to happen.
Wow.
Yeah, but like, yeah. So the show like kind of really tightens some things up, but then it
Well,
it
the
just-
best part about the show is the editing.
Oh yeah, totally. But it really fell off the rails. Like it completely forgot to make anything coherent or good eventually. So it,
If they just had more time, if I just feel like I think the story was fine. I think the last season could have been like 2 seasons. Maybe that's just my personal opinion.
Instead of like 1/2 season,
Just
like they shortened
break-
it even.
Just spread it out. Like that's what's good about those first seasons is that you're still winding about all the characters. The things you're building to have a lot to build up to over the course of the whole season, and then when it happens,
And
you're
such
like,
a such a vital part of those stories too is like how long it takes for people to get from place to place.
And they start
Yes.
ignoring
And
that.
then
Yeah,
and then at the,
ignoring
and then
that
at the end it's like
entirely.
they just like fast travel the whole
Right.
fucking season.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like 24.
Right.
The traveling in that show is
Yeah.
so insane that it's like worth watching just for like.
Everything happens in real time except for getting from place to place.
Yeah, as
or
soon as
peeing.
as soon as you step into a car,
Nobody
time
ever
stops.
pees or eats.
I think that one of the big positive things about the Game of Thrones show was how it looks. And then they have like the most important battle that can happen on this show take place entirely in darkness. And that's where you
Right.
can tell, oh, you don't know what's good about this show.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just had very little interest in watching House of the Dragon. I'll maybe eventually I'll
Very
get around
pretty.
to it.
Everyone says it's good.
Martin
And
did
that's
say
fine.
that the showrunners, he told the showrunners how it should end and that they took some of his advice.
Yeah.
And that they
Oh.
changed major things. I would put a lot of money that the whole business with the White Walkers was entirely showrunners. It has nothing to do with
Yeah,
Martin's-
definitely.
Yeah.
I
There's
have
no
a,
Martin
I have
in
a
that.
feeling Martin's wrap up the White Walker stuff's gonna be a lot more important.
Yeah, I think it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
There's like none of the like allegorical content that's like everywhere else in the story. There's just none of that in there, and
For the repetition of history.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I also think Arya
The names,
has got a
yeah.
darker ending in the books, and that's how she got shunted into that story. Is because they didn't want to have a bummer ending for her, so they threw her over. Like they kind of, it's like the Tom Bombadil of the show. It's
Yeah.
this weird playpen where.
Yeah, well, also the show had there was like a political element going on.
You
You
read
know,
Lord
like
of the
Me
Rings?
Too was happening, and I feel like at a certain point, like they weren't they were like, okay, we can't have like two bad things happen to like more of the ladies in the
Yeah.
show. I actually feel like that was a force in the show that happened. Like
There's
somewhere
a strong
late.
backlash to some of the stuff they did with like Cersei. And
Yeah.
With
So I feel like
Sansa
after
towards the
that
end,
they were
yeah,
probably
kind of
just like,
shying away from some of that.
yeah, let's make it all happy. I think for most of the, if I recall.
That meter is how many people are watching?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
Is it?
3 for
Yeah.
a part of a.
They didn't like that we're talking about the Game of Thrones.
There goes to the Gene Wolfe podcast an hour. Sorry. I mean, they were colleagues. They were aware of each other's work, and I think about George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones as I read this too. You know, like this actually is sort of on the level of Game of Thrones in a way. Like this book, like just with its whole cast of characters, its political intrigue, the high, the low.
It's definitely tighter.
This is tighter.
It's got better sense.
Well, Gene's
not that tight.
I'd say Gene's the thing about George Martin that drives me nuts is that he loves world building.
Yeah.
He wants to write the history
Right.
of the place.
In fact, sometimes that is all he's doing.
That A Feast for Crows is just a book that is basically Brienne of Tarth going around and just learning about places in Westeros.
That sounds cool.
It blows.
Oh.
it absolutely blows. There's a reason it's not in the show. It fucking sucks. Like nothing of consequence happens.
It sounded
Like,
kind of cool to me too.
Could you skip it?
You could absolutely skip it.
Or
And
you,
then
could you read
it, like-
only that?
Yeah,
there-
could you read it as its
I
own
mean,
thing?
there are sections of that book that are doing other things that are probably important, but like
Is that the most recent of
See,
the books?
no, that's Dance with Dragons.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a funny critique to me because I don't like reading those books. I don't like them at all. All I like is going on YouTube and watching people tell me about the world building that happened in those books, so I don't have
Yeah,
to deal
I
with the
used to-
characters or plot.
I
Well,
used to
read
do
Feast
that.
for Crows. Then I hated it. I'm,
Well, I don't like his sentence. I don't like reading what he's
yeah,
written.
I don't especially love. I think that there are particular characters that he writes really well and interestingly. I think Cersei is like a really interesting, well-written character in those books. I think like Tyrion is also clearly like character that he feels a lot
I
for.
think you can tell who he likes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I'm also just like completely allergic to like exposition, kind of at all.
Oh, I love
And-
exposition.
And
I
that's
love lore.
what.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the best.
yeah, I don't give
But
a shit about.
You
as-
can totally see the difference. I feel like what you're saying in that Wolf doesn't have characters that exist to world build.
Absolutely not. He
Yeah.
drops
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
in.
for sure.
You learn with the characters what's going on. You learn through discussing it with other people. There's like
You have to work for
That's
it.
why you have like DeRusi writing a whole book about these
Mhm.
books, because there is all that stuff in there, but it's also it's way more cloudy, like what
Yeah.
any of it actually is or what it means. And I really like that.
Yeah,
That's,
totally.
That's what I prefer.
I mean, I could see like being like, oh, cool, the next Game of Thrones book, and then it's just like a book of lore info drop, like probably like 800 pages or more or something, and being like, fuck this is insane. Like, but as its like own thing, if you treat it like 20 years later, if you're like, oh, this like one book in the middle of this, you know what I like, different contexts.
Tim Kabara just let us know that he is on his way to drop a puzzle off. In the chat.
What's it a picture of on the puzzle?
A cameo
I-
guest
I'm-
No,
I'm
no,
assuming that
it's
he's not
no,
watching currently,
no.
so-
It's a crossword puzzle.
Oh.
That's who I get my crossword puzzles from.
Does he make them?
Oh.
No, he has the subscription to the New York Times
Yeah,
Sunday,
yeah.
and he just drops them off. To
I
my
Just
would
house.
like prints
love
it out
it.
for you?
No, he gives
If
me he pulls them out of the magazine and drops
If
them
Tim
off.
was
wow.
making
Alright, let me
a
show you.
crossword puzzle every week just for Jen. Didn't give it to
That
anybody
does sound
else.
like a thing Tim
No,
would
he
do.
totally would.
Definitely does.
Definitely would do that.
This is what he does. He puts them in an envelope with the date and his name
That's
and my
great.
name
I love
every
that.
week,
That's wonderful.
and I get them in the mailbox, and it's the nicest thing in the world.
God bless Tim Kabara. Yeah,
See?
absolutely. I
Then
love
you
that.
get your
Wait,
puzzles.
No, we need a cameo guest
And you get your
star.
puzzles.
No, he'll want to tiptoe away.
No, he
You get your
he wants-
puzzles.
He wants
I've,
nothing.
Your puzzles.
He
I've
wants
asked,
to know none of
And
the story
and
at
it's
all.
because of Tim that I've done every New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle for the last like 10 years.
Did you beat him?
What?
Did you win them all?
Yeah.
I had
Shit.
They're not
They're-
necessarily the
You should
hardest
sneak
one.
them back.
They're
over
just
to
the
him when
longest,
you're
biggest
complete.
one.
They can be
Saturday
boring.
Saturday is
You
the
should
hardest
put them in a.
one.
Sometimes
in
they're
an envelope
boring.
and return them.
I'll tell you the
If you like
hardest
crossword
one. I'll
puzzles.
tell you the actual hardest one. The hardest one
The
is
Harper's
one
one?
of the rotating ones that they put on the second page. I don't know if people know about the second page.
Oh
of the
yeah,
New York
the
Times.
cryptic
fuck those.
crosswords.
The
I
cryptic
hate
crossword is the
Absolutely
hardest
I'm
not.
one.
so bad at
No
those.
way.
I
I'm
can't do
getting
them.
really good at them.
I'm not even gonna. I would never even try.
I'm
them.
getting really good at them, and I want the internet to know.
I'm
I
But
had
some of
I'm
those
very
words only have
impressed.
one letter in them.
I'm very,
No,
very
you don't.
impressed by that.
I had the
That's
internet
not how it
secret
works.
crossword
It's
not a-
subscription
that's-
for a
doesn't
while.
have a
I was
number on it.
really hammering on them during COVID. I was just like doing all of the New York Times crosswords.
Well, if anyone
Oh,
ever
yeah,
gets
I got-
stuck
I got the crossword
and they need to
subscription
figure out what it
Yeah, I-
is,
couple years.
I
just call
stopped
me
because I wasn't doing it.
and I'll
Yeah, me
get
too.
you out of it.
But the Harper's crossword puzzle can kiss my ass. I fucking hate that thing.
My life goal is to figure out how to do those.
It's maybe. I hope you do. I would be like the most impressed.
It's the
I
next
could do with
phase of my
somebody.
life. Will be trying to figure out how to do those.
I really liked it.
They're very
Yeah,
hard.
they must be for people who are just so good at crossword puzzles. But
It's
New York Times
interesting.
It's a
doesn't cut it
different.
anymore.
It's a
It's
a
totally
different
different.
thing. I need to do it because New York Times doesn't really cut it for me anymore. I mean, I do them because they're fun, but not because they're hard.
You
They're
kind
not
of
hard.
you learn what their deal
The
is
logic.
after
Yeah.
a while, and like they reuse a lot of like there's some words they're really into, or like there are words where you could make multiple guesses, but you always know which one it's going to be.
Well, the
because they always
themes
go
on
for
the
a particular
Sunday
one.
are good.
Yeah,
The theme things are good.
yeah, I like the theme stuff.
They get really weird sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes I used to what I was doing for a while when I had the subscription is while I was had work meetings that I could attend remotely, I was just doing crosswords the whole time.
yes.
But usually I was just like, all right, this meeting I'm gonna see how many Monday crosswords I can power through because those take like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
and that's fun. It makes you feel smart. I don't think it actually means that you are smart, but
No.
It means you're good at crossword puzzles.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's all about its own.
Which it's its own
Logic.
thing, its own reward.
you do sometimes learn some good words from it. I appreciate that.
Aglet. That's my favorite
Yeah,
crossword
they
puzzle
love
word.
Aglet. They put that in there like
It's a
twice a
popular
month or
word.
something.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
Is that like an aggro manlet?
No.
Yes.
It's
Oh, the end of a
Yeah,
shoelace.
end of a shoelace.
Tip.
Oh.
That is cool.
I haven't seen it in a puzzle in
Well,
years. though.
I love that Tim Kavar prints out or not prints out, rips out the crossword.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I've asked him to start covering local events for Bruiser, and I'm really excited.
He said he would do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
because he
great.
goes to fucking everything. And
He knows
so-
everything.
He knows everything,
Yeah.
and he just like experiences everything in such a weird way that I'm so interested in.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, if you ever want to just like write about some stuff that you like, just longer versions of these goofy Twitter threads that you do about
Perfect for a writer. I mean, that's what you want for a scene writer. You don't want someone
Yeah.
in like, or, I mean, just like someone who goes and just experiences.
Yeah, and he's
everything.
a teacher, so he doesn't have like a ton of time to do stuff like that. But I was just like, yeah, like if you ever want to do this, send it my way. I'd love to see it. So
Sweet.
yeah,
That's very cool.
He's the encyclopedia.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
yeah,
been paying attention.
that's right. He's been around
Since
forever,
the 90s.
ever,
The
yeah.
early 90s, yeah.
Since he was like 16 or something. He's just
Yeah.
been doing this exact same thing.
Just crushing
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got to write that shit down.
Hell yeah, I love it. So
Well, he's
Yeah.
working.
And he's
he
working
was
on a
working
book. As far as I know.
Yeah.
oh, cool. About what? Do you
Maybe
remember?
he can tell
About
us
the
if he's.
Baltimore-
I
I
actually
think
remember
He's
telling
not.
him about that. I don't
He-
think
I don't think he's
interviewed me
trying to
for
be
it.
on this show.
He even interviewed me for it.
Oh, for his book? Interesting.
He interviewed a lot of people. This was like 5 or 6 years ago.
I bet he's. I'm
But
sure he
he's still
didn't
working.
drop it. I'm sure he didn't.
No,
drop
I don't think he did.
Is it about
He's
like
mentioned
Baltimore?
it.
Oh, okay. That's perfect. I love that.
I was like, "Why do you want to interview me?" And he was like, "I'm interviewing everyone." Okay.
It's Kenny's breakfast beer.
Oh, cool.
Breakfast beard?
Breakfast beer.
It's
Oh.
breakfast. It's
He was
fade that
asking
low.
about your big
It's like
sign
a
of beer.
cartoon
Oh yeah,
glass
that
of
thing
beer.
it's hilarious, and it also like grosses me out a little bit. Like what's inside of that?
Styrofoam and piss. It's not that gross.
That's probably like mineral oil. or
Perfectly
something.
normal.
Perfectly normal.
I'm really into the concept that we play with in this chapter about the role of the clergy being to control God. Like, God is terrible, and if we get too much God, it'll destroy us all. So we gotta make sure that there's not
modulate
too
the
much
God.
contact with God.
Yeah.
Keep it sacred once a year.
Yeah.
Well, if your god is like
Well,
has
that's
an
very
actual presence that can be measured and seen.
And is a psycho.
My
Yeah.
God is.
All right, it makes a lot of like I'm right now. I'm reading this book that I kind of hate, but it's about
Nice.
it's about way too many things. It's like an 800-page history book that where the guy seems to mainly just hate the Catholic Church and love Aristotle. So
Amazing.
yeah. So it's a little bit of a grind, but there's a lot of interesting stuff about how the Catholic Church had integrated into like Western European culture and like the ways that it exercised control over it, and I like the way that Ketzel is talking about a lot of it, like
Yeah.
really jives with that, where it's like, you know, like yeah, I have faith, like I believe in the gods, but I also know that they are dangerous and also not what we think they are.
Yeah.
But we can't tell anybody else that.
Yeah.
And especially in that like medieval Europe, like the church was really like, you can't know what the Trinity is. Don't even try to know what it is. Like it's a mystery. They're really into mysteries.
Yeah.
And like theology, like the logic of religion didn't even really come until later, where they like we're not into trying to reason out any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
We've reached a strange point where we think that as humans there's nothing that we can't understand if we just try to understand it. But I definitely think that there's a lot of things that if we were to understand them, we would no longer be human kind of stuff, you know?
Cool.
Thank you.
Galaxy brain.
Yeah.
No, I'm not into the idea of understanding things.
Yeah, understanding
certain
stuff
things.
is bullshit.
I mean, I think it's admirable to chase an understanding of God, but you like conspiracy. You,
Right,
you have to
exactly.
remember, I can't.
You're
I
not going
can't
to get
do
all the
it.
facts. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what's fascinating about a lot of these like late medieval, early Renaissance thinkers is that they were so invested in reconciling everything.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, look, we love, like, at this point they love Aristotle, but so they spend all of their time looking to Aristotle and being like, and this is how this is Christian, even though he was not Christian.
Well,
and then
even as recent as the early 20th century, E. Wallace Budge, one of the first big wave of Egyptologists, he had Egyptian magic, which was about Egyptian religion, and then Egyptian religion, which was all the parts of Egyptian religion that could be grafted onto Christianity.
Right.
And that's the difference between magic and religion. Religion is Christianity, magic's everything else.
There's just this kind of obsession with making sure that the thing that you're into is absolutely right, and also compatible with the rest of your beliefs, which is fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
But that's what they were really into back then. Absolute truth.
What else are you gonna do? Back in the day.
I guess, yeah. Absolute truth is a pipe dream.
And it's weird because they couldn't even see the whole Earth.
Right.
So it's weird to be like an absolute
Well, that
I can't get to the horizon.
So that
but
makes it's like radical in that situation. It's
Well,
the opposite of what we're doing now.
Well, at that
Right.
point,
Because
too,
you
that's-
have to like basically like project your mind out into like some completely
It's-
unknown thing.
it's just crazy, is all I'm
Yes,
saying.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, like, they thought the Earth was round, but they also thought that some things orbited the sun, but also some things still orbited the Earth.
I would also
And-
argue that like we know things that they didn't know scientifically speaking, but like we also don't know shit about shit.
Right,
It's like
right.
we're just as stupid
We don't
as they
know
are,
more.
if
Yeah.
not more.
I'm just like we can see a picture of our whole planet.
We have
and
a
they
little.
didn't have that.
Yeah.
We have slightly more objective information, but like even then, it's not.
It's a drop in the
it's
fucking
not all
bucket.
the information there is.
Yeah.
And
No
what
such
has
thing
it,
as
has it really
objectivity.
helped us to know these things?
Yeah, we need to consider, I feel like, the possibility that our explanation holds and our explanation holds, and we're just like prioritizing different parts of like the view. Is that like, people keep coming up with ways to explain the same things, and there's this weird like chrono chauvinism that says, well, if the thing now is what we have now, that means it's better than what's before. It's superior because it comes later. When it's really like you're just moved around to the other side of the elephant,
Right, you have to be against all absolutes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've read Charles Fort?
I don't think so.
This is the premise of all of Charles Fort's work, is that everything that was true is now false, and everything that is now true will be false. The damned things.
Yeah, there's a good episode of Always Sunny about that, where Max explains that in science, like, you're always a bitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're always the pursuit of science is to discover how you're wrong.
And somebody will come after you and make you look like a bitch.
Right. And you can tell the difference between a real scientist and a mere engineer, because the scientist knows that all of this is temporary, and the engineer is like, no, that we're making a thing.
Permanent structures of knowledge.
Right.
For all of time.
I need this to be right, or my engine won't work.
Yeah.
And a scientist is like, what might an engine be like?
Yeah. There's a lot of hedging in pure science, at least, and I think that's important.
And in not science too.
Sure.
There's no such thing as objectivity
Oh, yeah.
in
definitely.
a real world.
Yeah, I mean, there's the perception of objectivity.
There's agreement.
Yeah.
Yes. Once I realized that, it was like everything changed for me.
Yeah.
Once I was like, reality is just everyone agreeing on something.
Yeah.
And how like watching that fall apart and being like, that's where we are right now. Is that not everyone is agreeing.
Yeah. I think that getting rid of the concept of objectivity is essential to empathy.
Oh yeah.
Goes a long
It's
way.
tough because
Absolutely.
then you can slide into the place where, because there's like two ways to look at objectivity. Like there's the way that says like we can't have it, and there's the way that says it can't be had by it, like, because there's nothing that is constant and true. There's nothing external to the human mind, which is like different from saying that the human mind's not capable of getting to that point.
Right. And which is what I'm saying. We're not capable of like. There is an objectivity. It's not a real thing to us. It never will be. If it becomes a real thing to us, we won't be ourselves anymore. We'll be it.
Unattainable to the point of irrelevance.
It's effectively, a unicorn.
Yeah, but then if some people, I feel like new atheists, like slide into the position where like, oh well, since you never can know objectivity, then there is no like reality beyond what we say it is, which just turns man into God.
That's an interesting interpretation of.
I don't think that's what new atheists think at all. I don't think new atheists are willing to accept non-objectivity.
Yeah, I think that they think there is no subjectivity unless you're an asshole.
If you are truly an atheist, then you're taking an objective standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, I guess
particularly them too.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly them.
Atheism is
Like there are like
I
think there are a lot of like confused atheists who just say they're atheists and they have a lot of jumbly ideas.
People who are really agnostic.
But yes, those guys are not that. Those guys are like science,
Not like
science
YouTube
only.
atheists,
Yeah.
On YouTube atheists.
Like
I
Richard
guess,
Dawkins kind of atheist.
Sam.
Those people believe in
what's that
objectivity.
guy's name? Sam.
They think
Oh,
that
God,
not
that
only
guy.
is
Sam Harris,
their
that guy.
objectivity that is
Homer
attainable,
Scott.
but they have attained it,
Yeah.
and that's why you need to shut up.
Yeah. Speaking of Dawkins, it's interesting that Trivagant is Muslim.
Why?
Sphinx won't let them make pictures of anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
noticed that.
everything about them is very Muslim, I think. But why? How does that relate to Dawkins? I guess.
Because he hated Muslims.
Islamophobic.
Oh yeah, they're all very Islamophobic.
He's
All
just-
of those guys
he
are
was
just
super
saying that.
Islamophobic.
Yeah, no.
It was
It's
just a
making me think
segue.
about Steve Bannon more. I think Steve Bannon's the most important person.
Don't tell him that.
Because he's the most important person, that's why we have to kill him.
Sure.
He's
Be careful.
There you go.
Last night at work, I read a bunch about Wang Huning, who's like the Chinese Steve Bannon.
yeah.
Cool.
And he's like served like the past like 4 administrations in China, which is really insane there because usually
He's the
there's
Kissinger.
giant purges like
Yeah.
between administrations, but this dude has like followed. I got a PDF of his book America Against America, which is like he came here for 6 months and went to like 20 universities and went all over the country, and then he wrote kind of like a Mark Twain travelogue kind of thing about what it's like in America.
Cool.
And he's just like blown away by the way that our culture is crumbling. And this is in I think the 90s that he did this, or maybe even the late 80s. And like he's just completely blown away. He's like, you can see this place disintegrating before your eyes because there's no core keeping it together anymore. Like there's no values that are shared.
Well, and that's kind of the trick about America is that like, as much as that is our greatest weakness, it's also what would be our greatest strength.
I think our greatest strength is movies.
I mean, that's a thing that we're doing right now. But no, like in the experiment of America, the ideal America, I like the strongest thing is that each and every person is their own sovereign. The castle, the house is the castle. Everybody gets to own their own land.
It just
and
makes
be
it
their
really
own
hard
lord.
to keep a giant country together.
Exactly. If it's working properly, it always looks like it's disintegrating and everybody's fighting. So I think it's hard to judge.
But apparently he's behind, or it's like the architect of the new cultural revolution that's happening there, where they like outlawed anything that resembles K-pop in China. Like
Oh, really?
Because they're
Yeah.
annoyed by it.
Well, I feel like the Chinese term for them is called little fresh meat, and they're like, this is decadent and it's Western.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely
Yeah.
see them
Very
seeing
decadent.
K-pop as
Yeah.
this very like Western,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
It's like,
Trojan
it's like
horse.
hyper Western.
apparently
Yeah.
they like disappeared all of these really famous like K-pop style like idols from from the Chinese internet, like just everything that was about them on the internet one day went off, and they did it with actors, certain actors too. They're like, we need to stop the westernization of China immediately. And you can
So
only
they're
play-
like Quetzal dealing with the gods.
yeah, you can only play video games for
Thank
3
you.
hours now a week in China if you're under 18.
Wow,
Probably
that's
a good idea.
Probably a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. though.
Except it's shitty when the government. It's not a good idea if the government tells you to do it.
Right.
You got to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like in America.
Is
Where,
that
where we don't do that.
where we
Where we
totally
hand
do that
2-year-olds
all the time?
iPads and say, "Have fun."
Yeah, but that's their mistake to make.
Yeah. I think that the problem of infinite choice is that most people make bad ones.
I mean, it's great to think about
And they
China.
die.
You know, it's great to think about other ways of organizing a society. I think Gene Wolfe was, probably fascinated by that too.
Yeah.
Like, there's different
Council of
approaches.
17, yo.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
good to like be
Shane's-
aware of like the conversations about China in the media as well, and just like to listen to, I don't know, just like how our own, world, manipulates our minds and modulates like what information comes to us. Like, we're a part of a system too.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
Yeah, it's just interesting to learn about the other system. That helps you understand your own system.
Here's a new weird thought that I'm having. It's interesting how there's no globalism in any of these books.
It's true.
Right? Everything's very
Yeah,
separated.
Yeah.
It's very city-state
yeah.
situations.
Other countries are still foreign to the characters.
Well,
Right, like, and it goes from New Sun, where like, all right, society's collapsed. You got to walk everywhere. I can understand that. To this, where it's like, how did they get to it? Like they're all in one ship that's the size of like half of our.
but they
country.
talk about it that it was designed to keep people apart.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't understand how this happened.
Yeah.
I'm saying like it boggles the mind.
Like Typhon.
From the supremely globalist place where I'm sitting right now,
Right.
it's just interesting to think of a place that resisted that because it seems just so inevitable and bearing down on.
Well,
like,
how many hundreds of years have we been on the world? Not that many, right? It's been a couple centuries. Yeah.
right?
It hasn't been a millennium yet. I could
300
buy
-ish.
them, like maybe a millennium goes by, they get more to a place where we're at, but in a couple centuries, it's like.
Well,
yeah.
it seems like kind of the plan is right as these cultures start to interact more, is when they all got to get off the boat. You know.
Right. Well.
Well, things
Well,
are
I
starting
wonder-
to fall apart. Like they're not necessarily getting stronger. At least how it seems. It seems like there's droughts. You know, like I guess the Trivigant have this blimp or whatever. But it seems like we don't know what the other places are like. But compared
At
to
all.
compared to Viren,
And those environmental problems have always drive like some cross-culturalism because it's like, hey, we got to get out of here. Like we got to take what they've got because we don't have it anymore. You know, like
Right.
there's
Migration.
migration happens sometimes because people feel like it, but sometimes just because they don't have another choice.
But they're definitely doing the things that globalism need. The people with money. Like the Ayuntamiento do kind of seem to know some things about. They got to spy in herbs and whatnot.
Right.
And Blood is trying to effectively get a satellite by capturing a flyer. And it's just crazy that even after 300 years, nobody's achieved it yet. It just blows my mind. Like
well, the
that money
Trivigant-
hasn't pooled enough to get someone to be able to see across the way. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Well, so we don't, but we also don't really know
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, first of all, we don't know about basically like any
Yeah.
of the what's going on in the world.
It kind of seems to me like
Outside of
Viren is the
Viren,
most
Maybe a tiny
crumbling.
bit about Trivigant.
Not
Is
even
my-
Byron though.
But-
We just see Silk and
But
his.
what I want to get at
gang.
right now is like, Viren is a city where the gods are not as present as they once were, and that's being intentionally manipulated and sabotaged.
I feel
And
like
there's
that's happening in
probably-
every city.
Well, we don't know that. I would imagine there's at least a few of the like 50 or however many cities there are that are still like very much under the control of the.
To me,
I don't think so.
Or, like,
Byron is
having
cut
a
off
pres- a very
from the
present
gods, but nobody else
relationship with-
is. And to me, that's like, that's a to me that's a
Wait,
clue.
why do you think nobody else is?
Because they mention it that nobody
When?
else is. It's anywhere, somewhere in this these 4 books.
Wait,
floating
nobody else
around.
is what?
Cut off from the gods. It's because what's
The
his name?
Trivigantes
Quetzal.
don't talk to Sphigics.
How do you know?
I believe that they talk about that on the airship.
Quetzal specifically
Sabotage.
is the one who cut them off from it. And there could be other
But the
Inhumanity.
gods have also like killed Pos and stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
think that only happens in
but
Byron.
they specifically say that other places know that Pos is dead. It's only Byron that doesn't know that Pos is dead.
Yeah, presumably because other places are still in relatively frequent contact with the god.
With
I don't.
mainframe.
I just.
I wish we knew more about
I
the other
don't.
places.
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled as we.
There's probably
Get to this
clues.
last-
and
Like we
like-
do see the clue that they at least have a different kind of religious system, right? Because they can't show.
But it's a.
But it's a
I get-
god they both recognize.
It's a guy that.
But
I mean,
they're-
it's Catholicism and Islam, and I don't. They're not allowed to make pictures of their god, and I feel like that's because they're not really seeing her anymore. And they even kind of feel like if you're interested in God, and I mean, we are just talking to the warrior class of people, but it seems to me that they feel like if you're interested in having a personal relationship with God, you're fucked up.
Well, they don't have whatever. Is there a name for this religion?
What
I don't
religion?
know.
Byron's religion.
Oh.
It's just
It's
The Byronese
something,
religion.
It's
Yeah.
something that's their girl made up. Their goddess lady. I can't remember her name.
Skilla.
Skilla. Yeah, that's something that she made up just like for fun because she
Mhm.
thought it was funny.
Yes.
And so it's specific to Byron. And
It's-
everyone else
it's-
has their own thing. Like they all have the same gods, but each of them have their own specific god.
What if
And
they
I
have
would think-
different names?
Yeah, and they might not even
Yeah.
be considered gods
That's
necessarily, too, if you're taking into
true.
account.
Like Typhon could have. I'm just pure speculation. Like put the same kind of system, but in different, like presentations to the different cities. You know what I mean? Like so it might not. They might have different names or different appearances or something. Slightly different rules.
The religiosity of the people that we meet do not seem like they are in contact with gods to me.
But we have.
The people from Byron.
But there
or
are clues
from
that they do.
Trivigante.
I don't
That's
see
fine.
that.
That's fine, but other places know that Pos is dead.
Okay, but I don't see that means that they're in contact
It's
with the
because-
gods still. And
Echidna told them.
okay, but
Quetzal didn't keep them from being able to talk. He didn't sabotage their windows.
I don't think that Quetzal is the only factor in
No,
that.
Because
Probably
isn't
not.
mainframe all fucked up?
Mainframe's all fucked up. They're fighting with each other, so they can't do god things.
I think that there's some planned obsolescence here because they're meant
Exactly.
to leave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when we meet all the Dutch people in the Short Sun, like all of them
Oh, yeah,
only
we
talk
do
about
learn-
money. They never even bring up gods.
We do learn more about some of a little
Oh,
bit.
true. In short sum.
A little
true.
bit about some of the other places. In
That's
Short
true.
Sun.
Interesting.
But they might not have a religion though. Like in Byron, it's important because they have the augurs, they have all this stuff. But you're right, they might not. Was it you said that they might not consider them gods? It might be something
I mean,
else.
it's just we don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know.
That Mark brought that, and I brought the one in the other behind you. So, yeah, have at it. There's plenty of coffee.
Coffee is for everybody. Coffee is all around.
Coffee, yeah.
I just
there
think
is
that the
coffee.
gods are doing their own thing and they're not doing their god job.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that whole system is. I think that's.
Well, I don't think
I think
there's
that-
any reason to believe that the gods can only be doing one thing at a
Yeah.
time.
No, and there's
That
know
seems
that
like
they
weird
can.
to
They know
me.
that they can do many things at a time because they can split themselves apart, put themselves in other people.
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't do more
Why
than one thing,
would-
but they're not.
Why would these guys exist if it was only for like one of these towns?
I'm not saying that it's only for one of these towns.
He thinks the other towns have also been split from them. That's what you think.
Yeah, I think God programs are shutting down or whatever.
all across the world.
I
Yeah,
think
'cause
that
they
there's
all come from the same place.
right. They're all
Yeah,
in
yeah.
mainframe.
Okay.
Even in other towns, if they're putting on other
Okay,
clothes, they're still.
I'm just literally trying to figure out what the debate
Logistics
is
of-
here. Wait, so yeah, so this is
I
this
think
seems
I
interesting.
lost-
You're talking about
Lost
it.
your plot. I think I like
Yeah.
don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that too.
So we can sort it out though. So okay, so Connor, you're saying that there's okay. We're speculating right now about the world and each town's relationships with their gods and how that might be unique in Viron. In Viron, Quetzal was instrumental in like making the gods go away a little bit.
Well, he may not have been instrumental,
He
but
claims.
that's
Yeah.
He
what
claims.
he-
Well, he
what's
does
what
say that he
does.
like sabotaged
says
the
that.
windows and stuff.
Because
Sure, but he doesn't know where all the windows are. Like I'm not saying that Quetzal
Right, he
didn't
hasn't
do that. I'm
completely-
saying
he
that
hasn't
I think
completely-
that there's more going on than Quetzal necessarily does.
Well, how about this? How about
It's
this?
very easy to think that Quetzal knows everything.
No, I don't. I don't think that. But
But
also,
it's easy to fall into.
but what I'm trying to say is, in Byron, we do know that he has been doing that,
Sure.
and yet still, gods are communicating with people in Byron.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that Quetzal's going around trying to sabotage any
Yeah.
window he can
whether
get his
they
hands
know
on.
it or not.
To me, that would lead me to speculate, which is all we're doing.
it's also worth interjecting
That-
that's a new phenomenon that the gods are coming back. It's a recent phenomenon, right? That gods have started communicating with.
The
I'm just,
theophany.
I'm just
Environ.
adding that information
Yeah.
into your summary.
But I'm just saying, like,
Environ.
there are so many cities in the world. I can't figure out a reason to decide that all of them are cut off to the degree that Viron is.
Yeah, same.
It might be to varying degrees, but I do think that the whole god system has failed.
I could see that. Like, I mean,
makes
that
sense.
to
I could
that
argue
is
that.
true, but that doesn't mean that is true either way. Like, what's happening with the gods is like breaking down. They're like killing each other and like feuding and like splitting themselves into parts to survive, and all that shit is happening. But that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about the gods communicating with people. Those are two different things in my mind.
Like publicly in
I
the
think
windows.
doing all that
Theophanies.
right. I think doing all that has made it so that they are not appearing publicly in theophanies at windows,
Doing all what? Sorry.
fighting each other.
Okay.
I think that the gods are ignoring people.
They're-
I think that most of the gods don't want to leave the world because they are
Yeah.
things that run on mainframe, but Poss knows that he can download himself into somebody and exist outside of the world, and that's the point. He wants to get everybody onto another planet and be all of them at once.
Yeah.
But because the other gods don't know about that, I think that the whole thing's fucked up. They haven't been paying attention to people. They've been
But
paying attention to each other.
But wouldn't you think that part of what they have to do to stay on the world is keep people in a certain, like, they have to be influencing people to a certain degree? Or you think the entire thing is suppressing pause?
I think that's where most energy is directed. Because they don't have to expend energy to keep people on the world. The people on the world don't know that there's
That's
anything
true.
outside of the
That's
world.
true.
Nobody on the world is like, maybe we should leave because
Also, Quetzal's not the only
exactly.
of his kind. And there are probably other Quetzals in other cities doing similar things
I
for
would think
similar
so.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Because Quetzal wants everyone to stay in the world too.
right. Yeah,
Right.
keep those sardines in
I'm
that can.
confused about. I still don't understand his motivation. Well, no, Hetzel wants them to go to Green.
Well, true. In the end, Quetzal does want them to go to Green.
And
But
he's
Quetzal's
helping
a
Silk.
little confused though because he's taken in the personality of a bunch of people who have other.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
Exactly. For whatever
He's
reason
part-
Quetzal
he's
came
part-
here, he now is a totally different
Yes,
person.
Which
he's
explains
part.
why-
He's a world person
Which
now.
explains why it doesn't really make much. It's hard to parse his actual motivation.
Yeah. When
I
we
mean, and
start hanging out with
ultimately-
Jahi, I think we'll understand what Quetzal's going through a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a spicy take on this. So I think that the outsider indicates that Byron is singular. That there's something specifically religious about Byron that makes it possible for the outsider to work there. Because the outside, I mean, if the outsider is what Silk thinks he is, he's a one-shot deal. And so, what if in the other places that didn't have, like, let's assume Quetzal's the only Enhumu who sliced windows. And in other places, this breakdown of mainframe is manifesting itself more explicitly. And so people are just like, well, I'm not religious. Look, that fucking screen's all weird and the lady is like talking nonsense. And so those people turn away from religion. Whereas because Quetzal's cut the windows in Viron, there's this mystery now and this veil. And that makes the people in Viron, not all of them obviously, but it makes like the ones that are in Sun Street much more religious than anyone anywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I like this.
I think Quetzal's manipulated fake religion to keep control of Byron.
Yeah.
And like the Triviganti have done the same thing in a very different way, where like religions become less religious but more rules based, so that we can
Yeah.
I also don't
Quetzal
think I think the outsider is different from all the other gods. I don't think the outsider runs on mainframe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's the outsider's presence and speaking to Silk. It sets Viron apart from every other city. It's not arbitrary. That like the outsider, if it's Christ, doesn't arbitrarily come and say, like, he's born in a manger for a reason. He's born during a time of a census for a reason. Like, Christ is the one thing that's not cyclical in history. And that's what the outsider's being here.
Sure. The thing, I feel that's a metaphor. And I'm into Philip K. Dick's idea that the second coming isn't something that happens to the world, it's something that happens to you. I think it's possible the outsider is something that I think could appear to anybody whose heart is open to it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So Byron is
But do
special
you think
because
that?
that's what?
But would you agree with what Connor just said?
Well, I guess my suspicion is that
I don't think
Wolfe
there's any
doesn't
reason for him
think
to
that.
yet. I'm not done.
No.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like
gotcha.
the idea. I feel like in
You said
our
a lot
world,
already.
I would say I'm on board with that the second coming is per person. But I kind of feel like Wolfe is coming more like didactically. Like I feel like to Wolfe, Christ is a singular. I mean, the whole character of the outsider is like always contrasted with the other gods, and I just okay. So this chapter we get 3 at least, I think 4 instances of Silk doing like direct homages to the New Testament. There's the fan leaves being waved. There's like an explicit mention of that, Palm Sunday. He mentions very quickly again him and Auk riding on the donkeys when they're coming in. That's a Jesus story.
Jose.
Yeah. I think that there's 4. I can't remember what the third one is. The fourth one, I think, is when Quetzal tries to give him the baculus, and he's like, "No, never for me. I'll never do that." And I feel like that's the desert temptation where Satan says to Christ, like, "Oh, you can be a ruler of the world," and Christ's like, "No, I don't want to do that." I feel like that's an echo. I swear there was a third one too, but yeah, I don't know. I just have it up in my head that to Wolfe, Christ stands apart, and the outsider, being the Christ of this book, like, is a specific, unique entity that has to talk to Silk because, like John from Cincinnati, there's no one else that's gonna receive that message.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
My question is, so Silk is based in Byron, and the idea is to get everyone on the world, not just people in Byron, everyone in the world off. So are there silks
Is there
in
a
other
silk
cities?
in every town?
Yeah.
I don't think there is.
Because I don't think so either, because in Short Sun, everyone, no matter where they came from, is like wants Silk to come, right? Like that's sort of the thing. So how do they get people, how do people in other cities
Well,
get off
Paz
the boat?
also did split himself into like a
Oh,
bajillion
yeah.
pieces or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's like a bunch of little like
everywhere.
Paz
there-
bombs.
Is there prophecy? Is there any appeal to prophecy?
I don't
It doesn't seem.
I'm
like
not
it.
aware of any
So-
problems.
Yeah,
Because that's
which is kind of
which is
I think
interesting.
there
Yeah,
is-
it's not
I feel
normal
like
for a
there
fantasy
is,
book.
though.
I mean, that's
I
such a
remember
key
specific-
part of like
I can't remember
eschatology and,
specific things, but I feel like there is prophecies. I feel like there's like things maybe where like marble, like there's. It's not like something people are still thinking about, but it used to be something
There's
people
no, but
would think
th-
about.
there's no
and
like
a chem would
once
have
and future
that.
king kind of thing. Like they're not. One would think there'd be a prophecy that one day we'll all leave the world, and I mean, because we have that, but there isn't.
No, I think there. Well, I think there was though. I feel like there's I can't. I'm not sorry that I can't quote anything about it.
yeah.
But in my mind, there is at least a time or two when it gets brought up. But it's more in like someone like Marble who has like old memories and like old like there's. It's not. It's something that's been lost or whatever. But I think it was. I think it was there.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
see
I
what
mean,
you're
you
doing.
have at least instances of people experiencing theophany. I don't like it feels like you gotta have prophecy as a part of that, but I don't know. But I was thinking specifically about prophecy reflected like whatever our kind of Judeo-Christian eschatology is, or I guess really just Christian eschatology, like picks a place for
Like the
for messianic return.
yeah.
And that, so I'm just curious if there's something like a parallel with like things pointing to Byron as the place for that.
Well,
But
it doesn't
I don't
seem
remember any of. I don't remember seeing anything like that.
it doesn't seem like any of these religions are at all messianic.
No. No.
Which
not
is kind of hard for us to think of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the way that other people get off when from just Silk being the one to find out that they need to get off is that it's like last weekend the the fire alarm went off at the building I work at like 3 a.m, and it was like all of a sudden there's this voice that's just like, there's a fire emergency reported. Please go to the nearest exit. Do not go on the elevator. And the little lights are flashing, and it won't stop, and it just keeps repeating over and over again. And I imagine like right before you get to that first floater or whatever, like you penetrate to a certain level of the getting off the whirl thing, and that goes off everywhere. There's like a little flashing light in every room, or in a voice that's just repeating like, go down to the
Well, there's
sewer.
lines on the floor or
Yeah.
whatever that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what pig is in the next book, but I think that like giants come out.
Also
and
true.
try to
No.
kick you out.
I don't think you're misunderstanding that. I think that's true that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Get some strong motivation to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Those bowels are squeezing.
Yeah, so it's like
You're getting squeezed.
like Silk basically like pushed that door that sets off the whole fire alarm in the whole building. I feel like
Yeah.
Right.
he
That
like
it's just sort of like
He
a
knocked
chain
into the
reaction.
sprinkler.
Or like, oh, we're leaving the world now. Like, okay, I
it's
guess.
like he pulled the fire alarm by going through that one door you're not supposed to go through except in case of emergency.
The push bar thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
push it and it's like, ah!
Yeah.
What a wild experience that would be. for your entire world to just be like,
Like if that happened
all right,
here,
we gotta go do something completely different.
if all of a sudden there was just a booming voice that was like, everybody proceed to
yeah, like
this
what a
area.
fucking trip.
It
You're
was
just
like,
like, oh,
Just wait till you see what
Well,
the moon's gonna do
I
next.
do actually think in a certain sense that it's like the slow acting version of that, because then when you're in short sun and you come back and you like see that there's like the sun's not on for like
Right.
long periods of time or whatever. It's like, yeah, there are like things that start happening
Yeah,
that are
the
like,
planned
get the
obsolescence
fuck out of here.
makes people
Gonna have to go.
Better find your floater.
Yeah, but there's not enough ships. They fuck them
because
all up.
everybody used them for money.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody at the hotel had to leave. This did happen last weekend at my job, where our buildings connected, our residences are connected to the hotel, and the fire alarm went off in the hotel. So I fucking lucked out because our first floor was the only place where it was going off in my building. So I didn't have to field like a zillion calls and go up and get people's cats or anything. But every single person that was staying in the hotel had to go out into the street. And I was like watching them on my cameras. It was amazing. But you just see the like seething sea of like frustration and rage of all these people. Like this voice that won't stop telling everyone to leave. And they're just standing out like, how long do we have to be out here? And they were out there for like 4 minutes. The fire department showed up and they're like, there's no fire. So it was for no reason. Everyone was out for no reason.
Yeah,
It was
In the
just
middle of
like
the
the
night.
world. Yeah. It was like
Work?
Yeah.
At my job for a minute, we were having like weekly fire drills, and it was so obnoxious. And then everybody who works on my floor, like I work in the basement of the library, and we all go out through this like loading dock exit, and then they would come in and like turn everything off, but then they wouldn't come and tell us. And they would just tell whoever's standing out in front of the library. So we would just be like standing around like, the lights aren't going off inside anymore. Like what's
go back?
what's going on? It's like people entirely forget that there are people in the basement.
I should start having fire drills at the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like mid-show.
Just yell.
I just do it when
It's
I'm there by
you
myself.
Yelling. It's
Just
you
yelling
Get the
fire.
fuck out!
Yelling fire in a crowded theater.
The power of my voice.
It's okay.
Sugar like banjo.
No, I would only do it when I'm there by myself, so I know what to do, and I wouldn't tell anybody.
You just start
You have to
yelling
follow
and then you
me.
run out.
Yeah. You will perish in flames! You will perish in flames!
What
And
you
you're
should
just
do
running
is
outside.
You should start a fire.
You're right, I should burn down the theater.
You heard it here first, folks.
We're gonna get flagged.
And first he's talking about killing Steve Bannon.
Oh yeah, you're not allowed to say kill anymore.
No.
I read a whole thing about how wokeism has created a new I mean, I'm not using that as a derogatory term. Is creating a new set of manners where it actually feels rude to young people now to say the word suicide or the word die.
I
or
would
things like
think
that.
that's like moderation. Like like you can get suspended or like temporarily suspended on Twitter for being like.
That
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that
Oh,
has
this guy.
caused children to internalize that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Well, there's like disproportionate
sense.
response to a lot of like my like Madison works with college kids, and like one of the kids that she was working with, she's like about to graduate. She's like out on college on the Western Shore, and she's black and went with some of her friends to a party that was like a lacrosse party or something, and they would not let them in. And the people at the party told them specifically that it was because they were black.
Jeez.
And
Wow.
yeah, and so this kid went and like tried to like report this to administration and be like, hey, like you have this crew of racists having parties that are affiliated with your school. Like you need to do something about it. And they kind of like hand waved it. Like they did pretty much nothing about it. And then this is a very like kind of college teenager-y thing to do, but she like was so frustrated by this email exchange that in one of her emails she's like, I am very frustrated by like this, and here's a poem that I wrote to express my frustration. And in the poem it's about like how she wants to like burn down the lacrosse field that was like built on the bones of her enslaved ancestors and stuff, which is like, you know, kind of real. I mean, it's Maryland.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you know, she's like really saying it. But then these administrators that she's emailing with flip out because they're like,
Right.
so you're threatening to burn something down? She's like, no, it's a poem.
Yeah, you know what art is,
Like,
college?
I told you it was a poem.
That's
Yeah.
the last place you should.
And yeah, there's
expect them to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now like
Right.
they've like started making a big deal about all this because
Yeah.
in this email, they out of context it says this thing. And it's like,
So
yeah, like what else? Like
insane.
if that's how stuff gets responded to, like that's how kids are gonna grow up
Yeah.
thinking that it's supposed to be. And like it's insane.
The new way to
That's
sidestep
really insane.
the like
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
banned for
That's-
using the word
that's
kill or
infuriating.
suicide is to use the word unalive,
Yeah.
which is fucking stupid, and I hate every time.
Because it's from Demolition Man.
Is
isn't
it?
Or something
Oh,
like that.
but that
It's
makes
a
it cool.
it's a reference to something.
That
I
makes
think.
it cool though.
Yeah, if it's from Demolition Man, I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rethink some things.
Wow.
Let's all go to Taco Bell.
Wait, no, Demolition Man calls it murder, death, kill. Calls
okay.
all
Oh,
crime
yeah,
murder,
yeah.
death, kill.
Okay,
I think.
okay, cool.
So, but unalive.
Repo
is-
Man?
Maybe it's
Repo Man's cool too.
Repo
Repo
Man's
Man's
a
the
little more
genetic
blunt.
opera.
Dark Man. It's one of the mans, right?
It's I could be a man.
I've never seen Dark
We Dread
Dark
is it
Man's
from the
real
Stallone Dread.
Liam
It could be
Neeson.
that.
Dread is
There's
an
a
actual
clip of
beautiful
it that
movie.
circulates.
Yeah, but
Starring
that
Cersei
being
Lannister.
said, but that
Yeah.
being said, there is a lot of
Very
precedent for something that is cool being made uncool.
Very true. Very,
I just want to
very
point that
true.
out. Just because it has been cool doesn't
I'd
mean
say
it
there's
will
not
always
only
be cool.
precedence, but it is inevitable that anything
Yes.
cool will be
Yes.
uncool. Have you ever read Charles Fort?
I used to have that big fort book in the bathroom.
Oh, was it Patrick's?
Yeah,
Yeah.
We should.
It's
like,
the best
maybe-
book to have in the bathroom.
we
I
should
might.
maybe have
I think.
another-
I think it's not there anymore.
a book club meeting, like maybe like
In the
after
bathroom.
hours, just to talk about Charles Fort one time. You know, we could have a fortnight.
Wow.
He's so funny.
Wow, I really. I'm amazed.
The most surprising thing
By that.
I found when I read Charles Fort was how amazingly funny his constant jokes are.
You know what's strange about the little kids being like, you can't say kill or suicide, like that's weird and it's
Yeah.
gonna upset people, is that then there's like the most popular video games are you're just shooting people.
Yep.
That's just you've got, and it's not even with like
But,
something other than a gun. It's
I
with
think
a
there's-
gun.
I
Well,
think
it's not, I mean, there's also different factions of children. I think.
Sure.
It's
True.
not. It's not a universal
There's
thing that they.
but I imagine a lot of that stuff is sort of like algorithmically manipulated. You know, like on TikTok, you can't say certain things, or like in your captions can't say sex or whatever. So
Oh,
they
yeah,
say
so they-
segs or
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
shit, which
And
you know.
porn means porn.
Yeah. There's like they have to find ways around it, so it creates
You
a
love
sort
that
of like
flag.
Not to fiddle.
compulsory
This is where we are, and
euphemism
this is where I am.
culture.
That's what I was telling
and-
you guys
and
about
that,
last time.
Like, so instead of just saying the thing,
The
you're
wars.
always having to find ways
Oh,
to
yeah.
only kind of say it, which is like also reminds me a lot of like my
Water
mom's
wars. Oh, yeah.
generation. It's like kind of compulsory
fun.
appropriateness, like
I
having.
would
It's not for me.
No, it's not
But
for me.
it's cool.
But for the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like I remember hearing something like an NPR story or something about China and like how they've developed their own like little language for social media because you can't say anything on social media.
Yeah.
It's like well
That's an interesting thing
that
I've
also
heard.
happens here.
No. Twitter is its free speech zone now.
Free-
Yeah.
Thanks to
Twitter-
Elon.
Twitter's
The
free
bird is
speech.
free, I think is what he said.
The bird is free.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
that's what he said. Oh, the bird is uncaged.
Well, I saw there's
The bird
there's
is
a
unalive.
new hashtag going around about like reinstating the ISIS Twitter account because it's free speech. And so there are all these like Elon states who are like, no, that's terrorism. You can't say that. And people are like, I don't know. That sounds like some woke moralism to me.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of posts of people posting pictures of like a gun pointing at Elon and stuff. Because
Yeah.
they're like, we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, there's an article about like noted dog fucker Elon Musk takes control of Twitter. Hey, it's free speech, man.
What a douche.
Yeah.
He's so dumb. He's like, I've said this
He's just
before.
hamstrung by his
I don't
bitches.
think I've said it here though, is that I genuinely think that the Bang CEO, who's like clearly insane, is smarter than Elon
Oh yeah,
Musk.
Bank CEO is based for sure.
I don't know what the bank CEO.
Oh my
Oh,
god, he's
Frank
amazing.
Jack.
Jack, what's his
I
Jack?
don't
I have no
remember
idea
his
what his
name.
Dorsey.
He's on Instagram. It's called
Yeah.
like CEO Bang Energy or something.
Yeah, the
Oh, the
Bang
drink.
energy drink.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
I
guy who-
I have heard of that product.
The guy who like owns the company, or does he actually make the drink? Does he?
I don't
He's-
think, I don't think
he's
he's
brewing.
like stirring the Bang vats.
But
or
did he
anything,
like?
but-
It's gonna be good.
I don't know how much he has actually to do with like the product, but he owns the company and he's out of his. He's just.
Yeah, he's clearly.
There's like a
Yeah.
huge chain,
Yeah.
and he's got tons of kids, and he's always like talking about how what a great thing it is to have a family. And
He's weirdly ripped.
Yeah.
he's weirdly ripped.
He's like in his 60s.
I mean, this doesn't sound
Yeah.
that crazy.
He
No,
says
it's-
a lot of,
You have to like
It's-
watch him talk.
yeah, it's a whole
Okay.
vibe.
he does a lot of like God gives everyone a special talent. What's your talent? What you need to do is drive yourself to be
Yeah.
better than you were yesterday
Yeah.
with your God-given talent. Like
Sounds
it's this
very
weird like
American.
hustle Christian.
Yeah.
Drink Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they like pay tons of shuffle dancers like round like they have shuffle dancers on retainer just to be like
Just to
we're gonna
run.
sell some Bang down in Florida tomorrow like and then they'll get like 5 girls in like crazy outfits doing the
Yeah.
Polly Pocket.
Yeah.
I think we chased Jen away.
Yeah, what happened? Jen.
Not talking about the book.
We're having a book club
Well,
here.
we could talk about
If somebody left every time we weren't talking about the book, I don't think
There no one be here.
this would just be an empty screen most of the time.
well, Ox says boobs, which I thought was really
Yeah.
I thought that was so
Yeah.
weird.
I
Boobs
noticed
is
that.
very
I that stuck out to me too.
Yeah, I was like, this is like I don't know, is this an editorial oversight? Was something like, did
Yeah.
you need to go back and change that to something else? Boobs.
since when are boobs in the world?
I don't know. If anybody says boobs, though, I would think it would be off.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Definitely.
It's like
Well,
a
right
weird
after
joke
that-
about his cans.
Well, and right after that, he's calling Chenille Jugs again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, I don't. Yeah, it's
And
just-
maybe in
so
the
very
whole
funny.
cat,
strange.
there's like a whole bunch of words for boobs.
There is a whole bunch of words.
Yeah. No, yeah, but maybe using a different word, it would be like hard to realize what he's. But no, they use tons of weird slang that they don't
Yeah.
really explain. Like,
Maybe
It
he
struck.
can't
it-
say
it
jugs
definitely
because he
struck
just
out.
associates it with her so much that he's going for one of the rarer.
yeah,
Well, who wants to use the same word every time?
it's true. It's very true.
boobs is just so like
It's
contemporary American
Yeah,
feeling. That
it's
it's so
very-
strange.
it was really weird.
It really,
Yeah.
really stuck out.
It's too bad we didn't get to this before Gene died, so we couldn't.
Gene,
Gene,
what the hell is going on
fuck?
here?
Mark Aramini knows.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we gotta ask Aaron Meany about it.
But there's also
He's had a baby.
There's also
Good for him. Maybe he'll chill out.
I feel like I've been seeing less and less of him on the interwebs.
Oh,
He just posts pictures of his wife.
Okay.
is she cute?
No, she's pretty.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good for him. And her. She's the pretty one.
She is.
So good for her.
yeah, but
Who?
can she do one?
Mark
handed
Aramini's
push-ups?
I feel like he probably had like a whole like testing schedule that she had to go through before he
Yeah.
would be like, okay, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, routine.
That I
Yeah.
put in
Maybe
here,
even a
one of my-
DNA test.
Yeah.
Are
yeah,
Gulo and
definitely.
Silk related?
Vision
Where-
test, you know.
Why did I think
Yeah, make
that?
sure she
Oh, I
doesn't have
don't
flat
know.
feet
I-
because he likes
that's
high
I feel like I've had similar
That's
thoughts, though.
something
I
that
don't
I
think
wrote.
that's
What is it
Oh my
next
God.
to?
It's when Silk dies and he meets
His parents?
his parents. But
Oh,
the
I wanted
thing
to talk about
The
that
thing
too.
I underlined was a man's voice, the voice of which Lemur had been a species of mockery, and that's the Calde's voice. So I was like, okay, maybe. So I had to think about it, and I was like, well, so maybe. I don't know why
Maybe this-
Gulo is in
Yeah.
there. Why I put Gulo. I don't know why I wrote that in one of my previous readings, but it's very interesting.
I kind of feel like maybe I had a similar thing because when they're talking, when it's in Quetzal's talking about
Yeah.
Gula's uncles
Yeah.
and talking about like, oh well, turns out he's actually from this connected family.
Yeah.
And Silk is kind of in the same boat of like he has a secret family connection.
So, I would just want to like, this is like a stupid kind of like technical quibble. But I just like, who are the, like, you definitely have Silk's actual mom and Tussa.
Yeah.
And then who are the other two? Is it?
I think those are his parents who the embryo was taken from.
Ah.
The genetic
Yeah.
donation.
Yeah, and I think that's why they don't speak is because sort of the same reason Melta couldn't really talk.
No.
It's like they're in cryo or long gone. They can't. They're not like present in the present in it.
Genetic memory.
Yeah.
They live in his bones.
Yeah.
Phylogenic memory.
Carrie, since you were gone when we noticed this, did you notice the word boobs in this chapter?
No.
You didn't.
I heard you guys talking about it.
You didn't freak out when
No.
Ox said boobs.
No, I didn't notice.
I also didn't freak out, but I was like, huh.
Wait, where is it?
And the fact that it's in y'all's copies and not just in mine means that it wasn't a mistake. Because I have the first edition.
Oh, yeah.
Which sometimes has some
it's-
differences. but-
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's
That's why I brag about
assume
the first
that the boobs thing is really significant.
Wait, when does this happen?
Let's
when
assume
does that happen?
They're it's Ox is talking to
Tartarus.
Chenille and Tartarus. It's like it's after the section where he.
Oh, he's
It's
talking
like when
about
stuff
the...
is coming down, and there's like a flyer. That he's specifically
Yeah, he's
talking about
talking
boobs because the
Oh my
flyer
God.
has
Us
like
talking about
armor
boobs
that-
made our watcher go away. No one's
Yeah, we're
watching
down
it.
to zero
talking
now,
about
yeah.
boobs.
Nobody's here for the boob chat.
Well, there's a lot of places on the internet you can get boobs.
Yeah, they're like,
They're like, I'll go elsewhere
I just want to
for
look
my
at
boobs.
boobs now.
Okay, so
Oh, that reminds
Reminded
me.
me of boobs.
You're like boobs, right?
wait, but I think there might be some more to this because so Ox says boobs, and it's like this crazy moment. There's another place where boobs come up in this chapter, and so we got Ock and Chenille, but then also earlier, Silk and Hyacinth have a boobs moment when Hyacinth's full breasts are pressing up against Silk's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And then I wonder, I feel like maybe there's an intentional echo here. That like Ox crude boob moment and then like Silk's like overly romantic like bodice ripper novel boob moment are intentionally supposed to be like juxtaposed.
I think,
Okay.
okay, now that
I
I'm
could go
reading
along with
this,
that. I
it's
like
he's
that.
talking to Tartarus, right? I think he's saying boobs because he's trying to, it's like he's talking to a god, so he's trying to tone his language.
He's not gonna say tits to
Yeah.
Tartarus.
Yeah, but he can't, but he doesn't know a
It's the
word that's
proper
like
word.
more
Yeah.
proper than boobs. That's why I think
Yeah, that's what
this
a
is
kid
my
would
theory.
say. Like, kids are allowed to say
I think
boobs.
that's great because that makes the echo even more
I
interesting
love that.
because it's Ock trying to be classy, and then also like Silk's like full breasts is like in the language of classiness, but it's a total like
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
it's a
completely
hookup.
horny. Yeah.
it's
It's
like,
like,
a little
ooh, boobs on my back.
Yeah.
Like-
and like because
It's also horn.
True, true.
Oh yeah, Horn's real horny about all this, right?
I'm just saying.
Horn.
yeah.
I've been thinking about Horn a lot. It's like so hard to keep him in your mind.
Speaking of horny,
He's always horning in.
Yeah, I forgot all about Horn until you just mentioned it.
It's hard to keep him in your mind.
His ribs.
At a certain level, you have to put him out of your mind because you would be
Yeah.
checking every single thing against it. You'd never get anywhere. Like at times, you have to
Yeah.
forget that Horn's real.
I feel like
just to understand the plot. as
yeah,
a plot.
like just the device of Horn as the narrator really, it doesn't have to be ever present but still frame the story as something that's kind of fundamentally unreliable.
and that that it has.
I
a
just
perspective.
think-
Like it
It's-
allows you to
he-
read everything as a more third person objective kind of thing, but then every now and then you have to remember like oh yeah, like who the fuck knows?
I just
Like,
think if you, I don't think you can feel that exactly that way about it when you've read Short Sun. I think Short Sun makes Horn a lot more important than what you just said.
interesting.
I would
So
agree
I'm
with
just gonna put that out there. I don't think like once you've read Short Sun when you're reading this and you're thinking about Horn, it's more than that.
Yeah.
But
It's a
also,
lot.
to know
It's a
Horn.
lot more
But
than
you're,
that.
I think you're meant to not know.
you're not.
Yeah, of
supposed
course.
to know.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first
Horn
time
is
you-
hiding
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
book.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it's
So
like,
you-
but
Peeks out.
but once you've read
Once.
Short Sun, you feel this like, or I feel, I should say, this like kind of like need to be really like thinking about him more.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
as soon as you've read that and you're going back into this, it just is like you're like, fuck, I fucking forgot about him again. You know what I mean? But you have to think about him.
Right, I
You
guess
have
any-
to think about him in a very like intentional way.
And anybody reading this for the first time would not know that.
True.
Right, even though
there
he's on
is-
the first page.
There is a part,
Right.
I think, coming up, I don't think it's happened yet, where he says, like, and then me and Silk walked in, or like someone looked at me or something, like it slips at one point. But I'm wondering if Jean knew that Horn is the narrator.
He definitely.
He don't.
knows.
Oh, definitely.
Because one of those slips happens in the first, like.
Oh, really?
When Silk is playing ball,
Okay.
there's a slight mention that.
I think
Horn's
I remember
right
us
in it.
talking about that.
Yeah.
It's
can't
definitely,
remember that.
most definitely.
I
Baked into
mostly
the
remember
cake.
the one that I think we haven't seen yet. When they're in Blood's house.
Right.
Like later on.
Yeah.
Does he
Yeah.
say explicitly at the end of this book?
Yeah. There's
Okay.
and I wrote this book.
Yeah.
with
Yeah, there's
Right.
an afterward.
My
Totally.
girlfriend.
Oh, and I wrote this book. My name's Horn. Sorry. I just
That is what he's
I
like.
liked that voice. Oh. It's like Mickey Mouse.
Oh, hey guys.
Oh, it's me.
I hope you enjoyed this book.
I worked really hard on it with metal.
I only have 4 fingers.
Did you like the boobs?
Yeah.
Flatlining.
They're missing.
I really like having that there. It's funny.
They're missing some good analysis.
We should have that every
We really
time.
trace it. Yeah, we got up to 3 viewers.
I like the like.
Very briefly.
Yeah, they're like,
the
nah.
tree.
Yeah.
But it took a wrong turn.
Someone checked. Nope. Boom. Out.
Oh, they're talking about boobs again.
Yeah.
Got it on.
We're kind of the Dahlgren of YouTube.
It's true. It's fucking true.
But it'll be the type of
So
thing which
fucking
when
true.
you watch it for the second time, you'll be
Make
looking
more
for new
sense.
things, and
Yeah.
you'll be like, "Oh wow!" And this is the guy that ended up killing Steve Bannon. So you rewatch it in that
In that
in
context.
that context, you're like, "There's so much more in this."
Yeah.
Right.
I don't need to kill him.
Somebody
You
else will
don't
manage.
need to.
I need to capture him and harness what he's doing for my own purpose.
Yeah, redirect those energies.
Yeah, I need to put him inside of a many-faceted jewel. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I think he'd probably get into that. You know?
No, he would love it. That's the whole point. It would work because he'd be into it. Just rub it and he'll come out every once in a while. And I'll be like, shut up, Steve.
Shut up, Steve. Go back in your box.
Didn't Errol Morris make a movie with him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never watched it. Did you guys watch
I
it?
didn't
I
see it
didn't watch
either.
it.
I
Apparently-
wanted to see it. It's on
Apparently,
Netflix.
like,
I
it's
think.
just them talking about movies, and then politics comes up like incidentally.
That's funny.
Is that like Errol Morris wanted to like get at the man and found out that he is like a huge movie buff,
Yeah.
so that's really what their like conversations all are like oriented to. It sounds kind of. I mean, Errol Morris is he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I got into like a argument because I haven't seen it, but my friend watched it, and she was like, he didn't, and I that was a criticism I saw people like, he didn't challenge him, and it's like, but that's not his thing.
Yeah.
His thing
Errol
is just to
Morris
let
has
people
never
talk.
challenged anybody.
Yeah,
No.
he gives you a rope and lets you hang yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like there's what I don't like about Errol Morris is that at one point in every movie I've seen of him, except for maybe Tabloid, there's a part where he forgets that he doesn't challenge people, and somebody will say something, you'll just hear him off camera go, "Oh yeah."
He's having a conversation. Like, I think at some point he's like, kind of, maybe takes a shine to the person that he's interviewing, and I know the moment you're talking about, and I kind of like that.
He does
It's
seem to have
kinda-
some empathy for like whoever he's I feel like he's
Which
very
you should.
he's a very
Yeah,
empathetic
yeah.
documentarian, even when he's talking to people who are just like fucking awful.
But
Mr. Death.
he has missed in the past where there was this guy who like killed his whole family, and Errol was like, he's innocent. I know he's innocent. I talked to him, this and that, and it's just like, no, he absolutely killed his entire family. Like,
Errol Morris is just a man.
yep,
And
absolutely.
a mark.
But
He did kill his entire family on a military base. though,
Yeah.
which
Errol
is
Morris?
Like, no, the guy he was like trying to exonerate. I feel like when grisly murders happen on a military base, gotta be some kind of more something nefarious is in the mix there.
oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know, like even if it's just trauma of being in the military, it's not like getting killed anywhere else.
Yeah, the Peterson guy who like pushed his wife down the stairs.
Oh, the staircase.
The
Man?
staircase man.
Oh.
That first one happened on a military base too, I think, right?
Yeah, in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the first woman that fell down the stairs on his watch.
Also, I just feel it incumbent upon me to say the owl killed her.
Right. Oh, that's that whole thing. Yeah.
I love the owl story,
Yeah.
and I believe the owl story, but I also think he killed his wife.
Did you watch the fictitious thing with what's her
No,
name?
because I'm. It came out pretty recently, and I don't
It
really
did.
care about that stuff anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a fun show. They
I was
show
like-
you in the show every single version of the murder.
Oh, really?
Happens,
Maybe I will watch it. That sounds kind of cool.
including the owl attack in itself.
The
Fucking
owl,
awesome.
the
Fucking love
owl
owls.
theory is incredible. I love the owl theory.
And you find out who came up with the owl theory and why, and it's insane. Like there's more information in the fictitious show than in the documentary.
Really? Well,
For a specific reason
the
relating to the
documentary-
owl theory.
The documentary never mentions the owl theory. I think there's a follow-up.
There-
that
yeah,
does.
there's an
But
additional.
the original one, because I don't think that the owl theory maybe wasn't around it when the first one came out.
The owl theory was first posited by the editor of that movie
Oh, cool.
because she's in love with the subject.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Weird. But isn't he gay?
It's
Sounds interesting.
insane, and it's got good people.
I'm after I watched The Jinx, I was like, no other murderer will ever be this funny, and I don't care about true crime anymore. Like, there will never be one of these that I like more than this.
Well, the HBO Staircase fictitious show is hilarious and thinks
Okay.
that the whole thing is.
I
funny.
will like that, and I will watch it.
What's the name of the who in the United States of Terra?
Tony Collette.
Tony Collette does an amazing job.
Oh, cool! I didn't realize she was in it. And who
She
else
is-
in it?
she
Who's
is
the guy?
amazing.
Who?
Colin Firth?
Colin,
Is that his name?
Mr. Darcy.
That is a person.
Right, but I don't know if that's the person who it is.
He's in all those, like, Pride and Prejudice.
Mr. Darcy. Colin Firth is Mr. Darcy.
I remember him
He's
from.
They look similar. I could see that.
I remember him from The Kingsman, which is don't watch it. Don't watch
I will
it.
never watch that.
Don't watch
I
it.
don't want to.
You guys think? Okay, I'm just like in the. For some reason, I just got really into the
Yeah, theory.
pauses Gamadian.
Say that.
Oh,
those words again?
Pauses Gamadian.
How it looks like a
voided
swastika.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
The swastika.
It is a swastika.
It is a swastika.
The word.
I cannot.
Okay, this is why I'm saying this. I've just been like in this for a little while, which is why I haven't been talking.
Oh, I've gone down this rabbit hole big time before.
But so I was kind of back and forth on it because a voided cross does not necessarily mean a swastika. A voided cross just
definitely.
means it's hollow in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
But the word Gamadian,
Well,
it's gamma Okay, all right. Then I'm down with this. I'm down with this.
I don't know that this is what it is.
But that is the other option
Yeah, that
besides
is
the swastika.
That is the other option.
Because
They describe
the
it.
word
Yeah.
Gamadian means it's made out of capital gammas.
Right.
So it has to have that little thing. It's not just a
I
cross.
don't know. that
No, but
this
I'm
is what
just. It
but
could be
Those are the
that,
options.
or it could be a swastika.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not just a cross with a.
But the
hole in
fact that
middle.
it should be hollow in the center, I think, gives credence to that
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah.
If it was a swastika, that would mean all the like bolts on the machines would be the shape of swastikas because he uses it as
No,
a
no.
wrench.
It's like
no,
an
no, no.
Allen
They
wrench.
use the
Yeah.
ends. The ends come off.
I thought it was that it. Oh, right.
The ends come off, and they're different tools.
It's made out of Allen wrenches. Like that's why they're shaped like L's, right? That's what I always think is like, oh, this has to.
They
he
probably,
uses
like,
it
they
like
come
an
off
Allen
the-
wrench.
they
I thought
come
that
off.
things fold out,
Hmm?
right? I thought it was like
You
fold.
can
Hang
completely
on.
remove them.
Oh, okay.
Hang on,
They
I
probably
was just
snap into
reading
a
about
holder
it.
or something. Right?
There was a quote that I was just reading about that someone quoted.
It's one of the
in
most
thing.
mysterious aspects of this book to me. Like the Gamodion in this is like Cacogen in the other book, where for years I was like, I cannot find a definition of this word anywhere.
There was a secret in the empty X-shaped space, or so one of the teachers had confided. A mystery far beyond that of the detachable arms he showed in this. He showed the smallest boys and girls to test and tighten sacred connections. Detachable arms means it's not just Allen wrenches. I mean, they could be Allen wrenches, but they're
Oh
not.
yeah,
like,
I feel like if you just remove one of these, now it's an L-shaped thing,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
looks like an Allen wrench.
It
to
could
me.
be.
That's how I pictured it.
it
But
could
with
be.
the swastika, there's no
Yeah, that's what I
empty place in the middle.
That's true.
Right. Yeah. Because it's the voided cross. They call
Yeah,
it
and they
voided
call it
cross.
that several times.
Yeah. So.
And a sign of addition.
right.
Yeah, but in this part, he's talking about how it's not the sign of addition.
Right, because he's saying that
Which
it's
this is
empty.
not.
He's not saying that
Right.
the shape isn't a plus.
Right.
He's saying that it's the negative space.
Right.
And it's like he's experiencing the voided. It's like what a magic eye or something. Like so, he's thinking about the voided cross as this collection of like L shapes with space in it,
Yeah.
as opposed to like just
Yeah.
like a straight up
An
plus sign.
urn or two people kissing.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that came out of Ryan.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
I'm seeing if any of the other stuff
I
is
thought it was a
interesting
creaky
enough to
timber at first.
I still think it's interesting when Ock pushes him into the hole. Like, you're thinking he did that to avoid the bomb coming, but doesn't Ock? And this is my first time reading it, but he grabs Hyacinth at that point, and he takes her with him, right? Like so.
So he's confused because
He's
I
definitely-
don't. Does he know? Do we know if he knew Hyacinth before this? Because he keeps calling her the lady in red or the woman in red, and I don't.
Right.
I
it doesn't-
think he maybe
that's
doesn't
some
even.
association with orchids.
He might have,
Yeah.
he might have
Yeah.
known her through that.
I think that
but
he
doesn't. In his state of mind,
Yeah,
Like
he's-
recognized
he's
her.
scrambled
He doesn't
brain.
He's
Right.
very confused. But does he even? Okay, I don't
And
remember.
under
Does
control
he,
of the god.
Does he even recognize
He recognizes
Silk? He does recognize.
He does
Silk.
recognize
Yeah,
Silk.
because he even
Yeah.
like apologizes.
Yeah.
But then even Silk, I think, is scrambled right now, and he doesn't necessarily recognize. Or I'm just really confused because this is the part especially that I'm.
It seems
reading,
that
I was like, I don't know what's
Tartaros is speaking into Ock's ear right now. Whether that's real Tartaros or whether it's inside of Ock's head, I'm not clear on. But
Real
you know,
Tartaros.
he's okay. Like
Same
Ock
thing.
is
Yeah,
the
both.
same thing.
right. I
Yeah,
mean, but
exact
Ock
same
is being influenced, and Tartaros is saying, and this is interesting, knowing that they're going to try to get off the planet. Yes, the woman's essential, Ock. You know, like everything else, like you don't need. So grab her. It seems to me that Ock is, kidnapping her, or for lack of a better word, and just being at Tartaros's beckon,
I thought he was
Get rid of
talking
Silk.
about Chenille.
grab. Chenille ran elsewhere.
No, but he said return to the woman.
right,
That's
that's what Tartaros I
Yeah.
think is saying, but I think Ock is just
Oh, I
women
see.
So
are
Ock might just
imperative
be
right
like,
now,
oh,
or
okay,
confused.
I'll grab
Also-
the lady.
Ock
Yeah.
has just been given a mission that is counter to everything that Silk is trying to do. I
Yeah.
think there's an element of maybe Ock is trying to get rid of Silk. I'm not going to stand on that necessarily, but
Right.
Ak is Moses, and Silk wants everybody to
Yep.
stay in Egypt.
Like it seemed.
It's up in the air. It's
Yeah.
It didn't seem friendly to me.
it is just as reasonable that he would be doing that than the other.
And Ak doesn't know that he's Moses yet.
Ak doesn't know shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of just
He's
He doesn't know.
muddled.
Oh, well,
He's
actually,
drunk.
now that I'm reading this again, he pushes him the other way. He says he sent a push on his chest sent him reeling backward into the lesser pit, not into the tunnel. I thought he pushed him into the tunnel,
No,
But
he
he
throws
pushed
him in
him
where
into
all
the-
the prisoners are.
but he pushed him back into the pit. So never mind. I was wrong about that.
Body's working.
I
Well,
think I'm just
also,
confused about the whole thing.
Silk
Yeah.
gets
It's meant to be confusing.
Yeah.
It is
Silk
meant to be
gets
confusing.
picked up when he's in the tunnel. In the pit, he was safe. Like, nobody was looking for him in the pit of prisoners that was like half fallen apart. But when Silk got to the tunnel, Sand picked him up and took him right to the counselors. So in a weird way, Ak had the right
Ak is
idea.
Doing both. Ak is grabbing
No,
Hyacinth and he's hiding Silk.
No. I feel pretty sure about this. This at least. Now, okay, he pushes him into the pit. But then he gets, in the end, he gets stuck in a pile of rubble that's between the pit and the tunnels. He wakes up in the tunnel with Quetzal.
Yeah.
He's in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
tunnel.
Yeah.
And then he goes back, he's trying to dig out the cane, and he finds the cane, and then sunlight comes through, and then Sand finds him on that side, which means that's the pit. The sunlight comes through, and Sand's like, hey, in there.
Okay.
And Sand's in the pit. This is all like
Yeah.
unnecessarily technical.
No,
but
no, it's
true.
good to-
But that part I'm pretty sure
It is
about.
a little muddy in my head. The pits and the tunnels and
Yeah.
Well, the pits are open on top.
the lesser pit.
Yes, the pit is open on top.
I think so. That would be.
They're all
a pit.
sunburnt.
That's what
they're
be
just
what makes it. A
yeah,
pit,
it's a
right?
pit.
Yeah,
Okay,
With it, yeah.
and not a cave.
I have no argument.
If
With
it had
that.
a top, it would be a cave, right?
Yeah, or just a hole.
A
yeah,
hole, or like
yeah,
a
I don't know,
opening.
whatever. Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
If it had a top,
Cavern.
you couldn't fall into it.
Yeah.
Oubliette.
Yeah.
If it had a top, right? How do you say that word?
You said it right.
Oh, phew.
It still seems like
Come on, someone
a
saying
weird moment. It's definitely a weird moment. And so, for those of you who've read it, I'm just curious if Ak explains himself later on, or
Ak can't explain anything, I don't think.
all right, well that's
Ak is as confused as we are.
if
like,
not more.
because
Yeah.
the way it's written, it seems a little bit malicious, at least. And I understand they're confused in the moment, and they're just seeing each other for the first time, and everyone's confused about everything.
Well, he also apologizes when he does
He
it.
apologizes, but that doesn't stop Silk from trying to defend himself. He's not, and you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem friendly. It seems like Silk doesn't want to be pushed back into a pit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm also not clear on how deep the pit is, because if it's really deep, then
I
that
did kind of
seems-
read it as him sort of like falling off a ledge.
That's what
almost.
it seems bad.
Yeah.
This part-
Well, he does like leave his body.
And right
That's the
with
result.
Hyacinth, yeah.
But I guess he's also trapped by a lot of. I don't, so who knows?
Does
Maybe
Tartarus?
it wasn't
Does
fall, it was
Tartarus
stuff falling
want
on top of it.
everyone to leave the world?
I thought so.
That's what I think.
Tartarus is trying. Yeah,
He's the
Because
one who
Ak-
gives Ak that mission. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Ox is
that's
doing.
what that's
what
how
Ox is doing.
it seems like Tartarus is like
Tartarus-
working through Ak right now pretty hard.
He's an interesting case because he appears to be a totally worthwhile pagan god. Like, whereas all the other gods seem like kind of decadent and unnecessary and sort of like
He
up
seems
their
the
own
most
ass.
godlike of them all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
the
Very-
other
I mean, he's very underworld.
the other ones are like a joke when you listen to him talk. And you're like,
He's
how-
unambitious.
Right. He
seems-
doesn't want to be doing
He
it.
seems
Like he's not. Yeah.
wise and
Yeah.
He didn't. Well, he didn't want it.
friendly-ish.
Well, and like, so I feel like he feels more godlike because God can't be ambitious because God is everything, so he can't
Yeah.
want more. So the rest
Yeah.
of them don't. Their godhood is corrupted by the fact that they want to be more than what they are, which means they can't be gods.
Yeah. Which is
Every god is everything.
Is that
Guy can't have an agenda.
Is it the next chapter that they do? Yeah, the next chapter is where they do the cool thing with Calde, addressing him as Calde.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really nice, kind of a mirror of what you're saying. Where like Quetzal's like, well, if he's not the Calde, then you asking him to say anything is stupid, and
Right.
if he is the Calde, then he gets to decide because he's the Calde.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know. We'll get into it the next time. But then the whole end of the chapter turns on tricking Pato into calling him the Calde.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like what you're saying with gods. Like, if the gods want something, they're not the god.
Right.
If they are the god, they don't want something.
There's a lot going on at the end of this chapter too. Like there's so much happening. Like Silk, announces
we have to
everything.
talk about Mint too.
Silk
Yeah.
announces everything. There's Mint. They release the prisoners.
Mhm.
That's a very fascinating thing. That's kind of Game of Thronesy, like in a way, like with the whole Daenerys and her slave population, and it just kind of reminded me of like the complexity of these kind of big heroic acts. Like they both kind of explore how that's seems good. Happens fast here. Like it's like okay, we're gonna free all the prisoners, and then something happens, right? Like it seems bad, but I'm kind of confused. Like I don't exactly like it's all. You actually feel like you're in the middle of like everything happening.
I mean, speaking of Game of Thrones, they're doing a weird chain trick at the end of this chapter. They've got a steel cable tied between two
They're
pillars.
trying to pull the
Oh yeah, what the
Building
hell?
down.
The corn exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, and so she needs to use the Azoth, right? It only comes down when she slices it up with the Azoth.
Well, it seems like some
was so
chaos kind
disoriented.
of comes in.
Yeah, it seems like they can't do the chain trick like they wanted because,
Right.
well, I don't think they were planning on Trivagon people.
This is also maybe a good time to remember that Horn's telling a story that he didn't witness himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unclear to parse out what Mint was trying to do, what ruined the original plan, and then why exactly. I mean, but we're supposed to leave this book not knowing if Mint's dead.
Right.
So there's like intentional obfuscation. But it is, I couldn't really. So they're trying to pull down the corner.
They get interrupted. It's not that it doesn't work and then she has to do it that way. It's they get interrupted by all of the.
Yeah, so then she just ends up slicing shit in order to save herself, and that ends up slicing up the corn exchange as well.
Which becomes a huge symbolic act. It's her crossing of the Delaware, or crossing the Rubicon kind of moment.
Yeah. Although, man, is it difficult? It gets so. I mean, in the next chapter, it gets so weird because now you've got Saba and Usyk on the same side,
Mm-hmm.
and the counselors and one battalion of soldiers on the other. And that's I mean, like, Trivagon is a threat for like half a chapter.
That's an interesting way of. I feel like there's never a point when Trivagon is not a threat.
Well, Trivagon is shooting bullets at characters we like for about a half a chapter, and then they're working together. I mean, I guess Trivagon.
That's our perspective. I feel like Trivagon thinks that these people are working for us,
Yeah.
which is what always makes me feel like, I don't like these Trivagonti.
Trivagon for about a half chapter, and then our guys are cool with Trivagon after that.
Yeah.
The Muslim matriarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, just the whole time that they're cool with the Trivagonti, I'm like, you guys are walking into a trap. And they know it.
Because there's an interesting like reversal of our situation where it's the powerful Islamic army coming in among the squabbling Christians and being like, okay, we're going to tell you how things are going to go now.
Well, I mean, it's the Crusades. Right? The Muslims win the Crusades. Most of them.
It's kind of by attrition.
Hey, they got the land now.
Yeah,
There's no Frank Kingdom of Jerusalem.
That's very true.
You know what I didn't know? I was reading about Bin Laden. He was in a book that I was reading. Didn't go looking for Bin Laden lore, but I found some. And I didn't realize that when the first Iraq war happened, Bin Laden had been like running camps for jihadists, and he asked Saudi Arabia, he was like, when Saddam Hussein first invaded Kuwait, he's like, this is my time. Like, I'm going to take my dudes to Kuwait and we'll kick that guy out. And Saudi Arabia was like, no, we're going to call the Americans. And Bin Laden was like, what the hell are you doing? They're never going to leave if you let them in. And that was like part of the origin of Bin Laden, that there was this like very specific moment of being spurned by his home country. But I also learned his mother was Syrian. So he was never fully Saudi Arabian in the eyes of...
Oh, Syrian.
Yeah, of his
I thought
family.
he said Siri.
His mother was...
His mother was
He just
Apple
talked to her
artificial intelligence.
on the
Yeah.
phone in a cave.
Well, the woman who does that voice is a fascinating person.
What's her name?
I forget.
She would have been way more fascinating if she was Bin Laden.
Yeah, Miss-
Well, that's why I was so excited.
Yeah, that'd be fucking wild.
No, but
Well,
he
he just comes from like a rich family, right? I mean,
Yeah, he's super rich.
They're
Isn't
just
his
like
family
Saudi.
really good friends with the Bushes
Yes, of
through
course.
the oil
Yes.
company?
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to college in England.
He got warned to get out of the country on September 11th.
Nobody's what you think they are.
I am.
We're all
Netanyahu grew up in
Connor
Philly.
is exactly what you think he is.
You guys know that? That's a good one.
Whoa.
The what?
Netanyahu grew up in Philly.
Oh, is that right?
That's interesting.
He's fucking American.
Like, I didn't realize Che went to medical school and was like a accredited doctor.
Che Guevara?
Che was a doctor. He went to medical school.
Not Michael.
I mean, he was from a rich family too.
Michael
Yeah.
Che's a doctor
Shit.
too.
Gave
Gave it all up to write for
Doctor
SNL.
of jokes. Doctor of gags and quips. And toothless satire.
Yeah.
She's got a little more teeth than the white guy.
Well, he's the one that made it so the best parts of SNL are that they tell racist jokes constantly. Right?
That is funny when they do the jokes that, oh, this is the one that Colin wrote and this is the one that Michael wrote. You see
Right.
Those are good.
Yeah.
He has a bad Twitter, doesn't he?
Michael Che?
Yeah.
Or Colin
I
Jost?
don't know.
The Michael Che. I feel like I've seen things like he'll like flip out on people like for being, then they criticize Saturday Night Live. And people are like, you're not that funny. He'll like dox them and shit.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's like,
He'll dox them?
yeah.
Man, if you're writing for SNL,
Amazing.
you gotta be cool with people not liking SNL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
saw,
an impossible task.
As it approaches 50 fucking years old.
they gotta-
And
they
of
gotta
never
give it
being
up.
very good.
They gotta give it
That's-
up.
I like early SNL.
I mean, sure. Like there.
Every once in a while, one sketch is really
That's
funny.
the thing. Is like there.
I do personally feel like it's kind of worth it
It's
for the
monkeys on
every
typewriters.
once in a while they really fucking
Yeah,
get me.
it's just like-
it's like once every 30 sketches though.
Totally.
It's like a very low hit rate.
Writing-
But that one out of the 30 is so funny.
Writing and producing a good sketch comedy show on a weekly basis
It's
is fucking impossible.
comedy
It's
is
just-
the hardest art form.
yeah, like it just doesn't work that way.
Well-
and so sometimes it's good, sometimes it works out.
It requires cocaine.
pretty
But
fucking
they weren't
good
doing they
job.
weren't doing it live
They
on
weren't
a
doing it
1
live.
week turnaround.
They weren't doing
They-
weekly.
They were doing it weekly.
There's
There-
like-
a lot of that's live.
There's
Really?
Who
Yeah,
won
oh
that?
yeah. They're doing it in front of an audience. I mean, not all the sketches.
Just
It's a
a
mix.
mix.
It's not aired
It's a
live.
mix.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
well,
aired
that's-
live.
but
It's not.
that's-
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not aired.
Very
live.
different
yeah,
things.
Yeah,
It's in
that's
front of it.
that's
Very
a
different thing.
It is a very
huge
different
It's
thing.
Very
Yeah.
different
It's
thing.
performed
But
live.
it is
Yeah, very
like
different thing.
20, 30 weeks of like the episode.
Yeah.
Like the
But
seasons
I'm
of it.
talking about the actual production of it, not how it's airing. Like they have longer than 1 week to write each
Yes.
episode of Kids in the Hall.
I would imagine that is true.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not taking they're not taking like more than they're not taking an entire year to film one season of the show.
No, it's
but
an
that's
interesting
not-
count. It's an interesting.
They don't
thing
take
to
a
think
whole
about.
year
Yeah.
to film any scripted TV series. But just my point is that
I'm
that
actually
production
not, I'm
method
actually
is,
not clear
is
on
different.
the
Right,
80s
right.
and
It's
90s
definitely
TV.
different,
How
but-
are they doing that? Like, were they filming that stuff? Were they? I think they were front loading it as for a time, but I think in the middle of the season they were actually still catching up
You probably-
to meet up with
I
their
think you
production.
probably have a
schedule.
bit of a buffer though. My guess
Yeah.
is that you got like a 10-episode buffer or something.
I think
like
that's
that.
how it worked, right?
Yeah.
Like with something like Seinfeld or Star Trek, like you'd start like in the summer, or you get some episodes lined up, but then the season's starting, but you're still going. Like you're
Yeah,
still,
yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're doing that, but like
Yeah.
even then, that's still a
Well,
very
it's
different.
like
And
it's
you
different.
and you still have
I'm just curious.
a
I'm just
much
talking
longer
about-
lead time between when you're filming it and when you're airing it.
Yeah, like
Even
having-
if you're filming it while it's airing,
and
but you're not
But
filming
with-
next
but with
week's
SNL,
episode.
I imagine
Sorry, man.
the writers
No,
are
that's
And
like
if they're not starting with,
thinking
they're
of
not starting with a
sketches.
blank page every week, but they are starting with a celebrity guest who
Yeah.
was not there the week before.
Yeah,
Like they're having
Yeah.
to really like hash out
and they are.
all of that shit.
They're doing
in
all the
one
costumes
week.
and sets.
Yeah,
that week, I
there's
think.
so much. Yeah, I mean they wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
They could probably get a little bit ahead on some stuff. Like they can prep, but like there's just no way that you can make a consistently great show
I agree with that.
like that.
Yeah.
That's like late night shows are similarly.
What are you laughing
fucking
at?
impossible.
I changed
He
the
just
chapter 10
changed
to be
it.
called Calde Suck.
So the dumbest question I have about this chapter on my page is why does it reek of fish when the floater gets shot?
Because they don't have they're using like fish oil and shit. They're using like
That's what runs in the floater.
Right?
yeah.
They don't have
They don't-
gas.
yeah,
they don't
they're
have
using
dino
all
oil
like
or petroleum,
they're using
yeah.
all like
Coniferous trees.
biofuel or whatever,
Okay.
like cooking oil basically,
Yeah.
or whatever, and like fish
Sea
guts and
oils.
fish
It's all sea
oil.
oils.
Hey, if anybody wants to talk about Rook, I'd like to speculate
Yeah.
about Rook for a bit.
Did
at
you
some
look
point.
in here just now?
I did. It had very little additional information.
God,
about
I have
Rook.
to say this is not nearly as good as the original.
Nowhere near as good.
Not even close. There's so much shit left out where you're like, there's not enough for that.
Drusy fell off.
Well,
mean, it's
the
harder.
other one was for college, I believe.
What?
I think that was like
it was
his,
like his project.
yeah, it was
his,
like his
like,
master's
thesis.
thesis. or
Oh
something.
wow.
What does Rook do?
And he probably had more time to work on it, and then that came out, and then it was like, oh, I need to make another one. Veterans,
Right, he wrote this book
because that's
because the last book was popular.
that's comprises like
2 books.
yeah 7.
There's also significantly
7
less
books.
scholarship to draw from, in my opinion. I don't know for
Oh
Long
yeah,
Sun.
people. Yeah,
Probably.
it's
You know,
and yeah,
like-
people.
It's more made up stuff.
It doesn't seem.
I think the scholarship is more hidden.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not.
The
It's not a
Earthnet
big.
archives.
There's not as much conversation, and there maybe should be. What I'm realizing.
Yeah,
Dig
well,
deeper into
totally.
this.
Like New Sun definitely has a lot more kind of like I won't call it mainstream, but like sort of like official
There's-
published criticism.
Just
Where
more dialogue.
This book's harder.
This book is kind of harder.
They get harder.
It doesn't seem like it.
it does,
Yeah,
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 Right,
that's-
and that's part
that's
of what's
the
so
great
difficult
aspect.
about it.
Yeah.
It seems
it's not as
like
challenging
it's not.
to read.
Yeah, and like this is
But
the
it's
section where you
actually-
start realize like, oh, I've been reading this along and I thought that I got what's happening, and now I realize I don't know what the fuck is happening. And this is where you realize that it's more difficult than
Instead
you
of
thought.
Yeah,
just
New
starting
Sun
out
is
not
very-
knowing what's happening.
New Sun
Right.
is so much more like puzzly.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a clue here and a clue there, and we're leading you to this, and like you're having these like realizations, and these are so much murkier. And I mean that there's still a lot left to sort out always in New Sun, obviously, but it's just the way that it's done is so much.
Yeah, I want to reread
More-
these so bad. Like I'm at the stage where I'm not even finished, but I'm like I can't wait to reread Long Sun. Like
Yep.
going back to the beginning
Yep.
and seeing the whole like plot arc. Like it's so long too. We've been reading this for forever. but,
My
like,
whole life.
I'm thinking back to the beginning where he's just meeting Blood on the street and like breaking into his house and meeting Mukor and all that. Like
it's like
meeting Hyacinth, like
such a trip.
to see like the whole like plot arcs, over the
I
whole
do-
thing will be like really interesting to go back and reread.
I keep sending out tweets from the Bruiser account being like, I want somebody to write an essay about the Long Sun. Like, I will publish your essay about the Long Sun. Send it to me. Nobody has fucking done it yet.
I don't know what to because I don't know what to
I
say.
don't know what I would say.
That's like
Somebody's got something interesting to kind of put
Someday.
together about it. And that's,
Someday.
yeah, so I'm just kind of continually just like putting it out there. Like, give me some Long Sun criticism. I think that's going to be really interesting.
I honestly was thinking as I was reading this chapter, I like is now like sinking in. Like, this is an amazing book. You know, like I know that's like whatever, but it really is. Like, it's really cool. Like, and I think I was kind of dismissive of it for a long time. And I'm now appreciating how deep.
It wants you to do that, I think. That's part of why it's so amazing. New Sun is like, can you figure me out? And this book's like, there's nothing to figure out here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to solve some mysteries.
I think New Sun has like just the vibes are so different. Like you get
It's
into it
different
and it's like
vibes,
you think it's a fantasy novel, and then it's not, but it still has this like fantasy novel feel to it, and it like, and I think it's like a vibes thing where it's like, this is like, this feels like some cool nerd shit, and then this is way more like
it's
like who
Father
like,
Brown, right?
way different. It's yeah.
I also I've been reading some Thomas Merton, and I feel like Thomas Merton is like very much informs what Silk is like. Like Silk is kind of like a not intellectual Thomas Merton.
Merton's like the more like modern
Yeah, he's a dude that's like his parents were like artists in New York, and then he ends up becoming a monk in Kentucky.
Right,
and
he's
then, like,
he's really interesting.
He is. He's a pretty rad dude. He was one of the first like American intellectuals that was like, we all got to get down with this Taoism thing.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that name before.
Right, definitely. Yeah, this I designed this like creative writing book for an old teacher of mine that he's like really into Merton.
Yeah, he's like
and like incorporating a lot of that into his like kind of like writing and teaching writing practice.
Yeah, he has it's like super accessible, and it's definitely like the writings of a guy who hangs out outside and doesn't like watch TV ever. And it's like a pleasant dude who's like,
just reading books and thinking big thoughts.
Yeah. And there's like a Silk thing to him, because it's like Merton's clearly very intellectual, but then he always finds this way to bring it back to just being like, yep, so you have faith, you enjoy the leaves and the rain, and like this is what we do. This is like he's like has all these big ideas, and it comes to this like contentment with not having to figure stuff out.
Do less, think more.
Yeah. And Merton said
That's
a
my
really
mantra.
cool. There's a really cool thing that he said that like totally flipped my wig in that I was reading in this book called Raids on the Unspeakable. A lot of his books are just essays about like whatever, and sometimes they're book reviews, like of just a book, like him talking about a book that he read, and kind of assuming you read it too, and then like seeing where like tangents it goes on.
That's the best kind of book review.
Yeah. So there's this thing that he said where he like real quickly in one of these essays he implies that everything's magic, like technology is just kind of magic, like people are like advertising, people manipulating each other, it's all different forms of magic, and religion is just the one kind of magic that's real, that's like in real meaning like it reflects natural patterns and not people's impositions on other people. Which was a really interesting way to think about, where he was like, all these magicians want to tell you something, but like a true actual priest like wants you to not need magic.
I imagine he's pretty specific about what an actual real priest counts as.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't use the phrase real priest, but he's just like, it's really interesting when he like sort of refers to magic as being like the way that everything works in a way that like makes a lot of sense, like the technology and expertise and stuff. It's all really like a glamoring of regular people, and that like the true religion is like trying to find the actual laws of the universe underneath the magic tricks.
Cool.
Yeah, and that strikes me as being very silky, like a silk thing.
Silky. Silky.
Silk.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about Silk this week. He's a unique hero for a sci-fi epic. You know,
Definitely.
not a kind of character usually drives a story forward.
It kind of reminds me. Have any of you guys seen The Bridge?
I don't think so.
It's what is
Got the
that?
Golden Gate.
No, it's about Sweden and
There
then
was.
Denmark.
About
There's like a bridge that that
about all
spans
the
them,
bridge?
and it's about a murder that
I
takes
put
like
money
they
on what?
find a body in the exact middle point of the bridge. So this Swedish detective has to who's very autistic and really very interesting character. Like
Is he literal? He is autistic.
It's a she.
She.
I mean the actor.
You've been caught.
The actress is not autistic, but and they never explicitly say that the character is autistic, but the character has like extreme the character's way
Extreme
of
ass?
dealing is like extreme Asperger's. She wears leather pants all the time, so there is some ass, but
Go on.
but she's like she's an autistic
Thanks
detective.
for asking.
It has a lot of similarities with Silk. I feel like this person who's like really fixated on like finding this truth and kind of missing every other fucking thing around them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like
That's how we like our pulpy detectives to be. It's Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it's Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
a riff on Sherlock Holmes for
Well,
sure.
I was thinking a little bit
It's
about
Monk.
how, like, the sort of hero structures here too, because it's like because I've been thinking about, what's his name, Campbell, which
Joey.
old Joe C,
Joey C.
who
Joe Camel.
Joe Campbell, thinking about Joe Campbell.
That makes me think of
It's, I mean, like, obviously, like, Silk has like some of this like Campbellian hero arc, like he literally like goes underground and like there's this call to action and everything, but like the true hero of the book is Ark, who like has some of that, like he's underground too, but like his whole experience is, I feel like, not very Campbellian. And so being able to have a story that has both is really interesting. In some ways, Severian is more of that kind of like traditional hero. And this book, like, there's a little more texture to it. And I'm always really interested in stories that take on the hero myth from like without just accepting it completely. And I feel like that's
What's the temperature on Campbell here?
I think he was kind of an asshole. I think he had some interesting things to say, but was not nearly as right as he thought he was.
Right. Okay.
And that it's like a little like the hero thing is a little bit problematic.
I think it's
as like a way to see your life, in my opinion.
As a personal thing is weird.
Right.
I think
And
it's like
he tried to push that.
I think he did.
It's kind of Jordan Peterson-ish.
Definitely. Very.
It's what Jordan Peterson decided to do with his life.
And also corny.
I'd say.
But that's important.
And
That's not
neurotic.
necessarily
It's
a bad thing.
really
true.
neurotic.
Definitely.
It's deeply neurotic to be like, the hero will solve
Right.
every problem.
Right.
Yeah, I
Or that
think,
every life follows like a similar.
I think that as like a comparative literature thing is compelling but reductive.
Yeah,
And
it's too small.
Yeah, and
it's definitely a pattern in stories. That's
yeah,
the thing, for sure.
certainly that
Yeah.
kind of stuff shows up, but that also
It also
ignores-
made Star Wars,
ignores
and
a
I
lot of
hate
other
Star
things.
Wars.
I think the people who get really into Campbell and think that it is, I mean, kind of as with anything, once you sink really deep into something and you think that that's the only way that things are supposed to be, then you're gonna
You get dumber and dumber.
Yeah, you just get dumber and dumber
Yeah.
instead of trying to throw things at it and see and break it and do different shit, because there are obviously different story structures that work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, to a degree, story structure might be something, especially with timeless myth, that is in our head when we read it.
definitely,
It's not in the story.
Yeah.
It's about
Oh.
the reader, not the
for
story.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and but also trying to apply story structures to your own life is just that's schizophrenic. Like you can't do that shit. That's not how it works.
Well, I know
Well,
a CEO of Bang Energy Drink that beg to differ.
I think that if you use maybe logic, it can become an amazing tool, but
Yeah,
you
I
have to
think-
not buy it.
Well, it's
Right.
it's also
Yeah.
just it's also you. I think you can also use it in the way that you use like other
Tools.
tools, like like astrology or whatever. Any kind of tool. It's like the purpose is like the critical thing that's happening, not the like.
It's just an interpretive
It's like all
framework.
exactly.
And like it's important to apply
It's a
different
lens. It's a
interpretive
lens.
frameworks to the things that you're doing.
It's a lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Campbell's interesting, but also kind of douchey.
Yeah, it's like good books to read, but not to like worship.
Live,
Yeah,
not
like
to
you-
live by.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
can just, or that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with all these medievalists who are like, oh yeah, okay, so Plato and Aristotle don't agree, but we have to find a way because we believe in all of it, so we have to make sure that it is all true and that it is all Christian. And it's like, why are you guys putting yourselves through this? Just read it.
Yeah.
If you like it, go with it. Like you don't have to reconcile every piece of thought with every other piece of thought. That's insane.
I feel like the Muslims got something to do with it. Because the medieval world was rediscovering Aristotle through the Muslims. So they
Yeah.
were like, the Muslims have all this figured out, and they're coming to they're already in Spain. We need to get our shit together to fight the Muslims. I feel like is where that came from.
Maybe, but I feel like the Muslims kind of figured out all. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just take the parts of Aristotle that like make sense to us, and that we can roll like.
Well, Muslims were thinking, and Europeans weren't.
Yeah.
Important distinction.
Yeah. They had coffee, they made math. That's what happened.
Yeah.
They were like, fuck yeah, let's go.
and the Europeans that were
They
thinking
need
were
numbers
Knights
that make
Templar.
sense instead
Yeah.
of Roman numerals. It's like, yeah.
The Europeans who were thinking were Knights Templar who did so fantastically successful that the governments had to destroy them because the governments all owed them money
Right.
because they invented international banking because they got this shit from the Arabs, which is just more proof that we got to stop the Arabs. For the Europeans at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Context.
Yes.
I think the Arabs are stopping themselves right now and we don't have to do shit about it.
They seem to have embraced a certain amount of Western.
Well, we also-
we,
Anyone in this, I feel like, maybe not anyone, but many peoples who are stopping themselves in this world are stopping themselves because we made them.
Oh yeah.
Well, I also think that we're stopping them. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the world
Yes,
is
yes.
eating itself
Oh, yes,
alive,
yes,
and that's how it ends.
Yes, yes.
That's
But
the
we
stopping that occurs.
but we mandated that across the board.
The supremacy
We
of-
were like, okay, you stop, you're gonna stop, we're stopping, so you guys all gotta stop too.
The
Don't you want
supremacy
to
of
watch
the-
a sexy
It's the Oprah.
superhero
It's
movie?
the Oprah.
Yeah.
The Oprah.
Yeah.
No, you
And
do.
you're gonna stop, and you're gonna
yeah,
stop.
American commercial culture is like so shiny and appealing on its face. It's
Yeah.
such a like
Treats.
yeah,
That's why-
yeah,
The
it's
country
treats.
of treats.
It's treats. And
It's like
nothing
China's
else.
like, things are gonna change in this house. 3 hours of video games a week. That's all you're getting, kids. You're gonna turn out like our fucking horrible neighbors. Oh
I
my
wonder how
god.
they
Yeah.
mandate that. Do they just make
Yeah, how do
your
they?
system shut
How is
up?
that enforceable?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think that's how it works. Is that like you gotta be online and then it tells you,
Oh.
no, you've been online.
Oh, okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I just don't think that's going to work.
It seems crazy.
It might not
but
have the
like,
result
kinda
they
God
want.
bless them for trying it
It'll
over
do something.
there.
I think that's kind of
Probably
the
get
deal.
around
The
it.
deal with most authoritarian measures is that
Yeah.
it's like
The measure's there.
You can't really control people, not really.
yeah,
But
like
they'll-
you know,
they'll work
ultimately,
around
yeah, people are maybe susceptible to authoritarianism, but ultimately are just like super fucking chaotic.
Maybe it's gonna cause like a brilliant renaissance in programming games onto scientific calculators.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Right?
Like the kids are gonna figure out like how to make a
Yeah.
really
Or
great
Final Fantasy.
HD third person cover shooter on a TI 95.
I mean, and that's kind of the thing. All rules are just something that people are going to figure out how to get around. It's why we need to have God be reborn again, so that people want to do things morally, we need morals again. Not that morals are good, but people need to do things because they want to.
There needs to be
internally,
an
not
Right.
motivated reason.
policy is only something that smart people get around. Nothing can ever be solved with rules.
Yeah.
That's why I think any truly effective rule should also be intentionally not a permanent measure.
Exactly.
Like every effective rule should contain
Its own undoing.
It's its own. Like it needs to. Rules
It's like
need to be-
contingent.
rules need to make themselves obsolete. They're
Yeah.
only
Well,
temporary.
they
measures.
do, and we need to recognize.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Like all rules will make.
But they're
themselves obsolete,
not.
so
But
why
it's
don't
not
we
always.
approach
But it's
that
not.
as the
Yeah, it's
intention?
not self-aware usually.
Yeah. Like why?
The
why,
rule?
The rule being, like, including its own obsolescence.
Usually, when people make
Rules have
they
no
intend-
awareness. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, the creators of rules.
Yeah, when people make rules, they want them to be set in stone and last forever, and that's just not how it's gonna fucking work.
Rules are useful to the extent they influence culture. So if they do, or whether they do,
It's got to
you
understand
know,
that the culture
like,
is going to change.
yeah, like how is the culture around your place? Like what are the conventions of the behavior for the people in a certain area? So a rule might influence that, but usually comes out of the culture, right? It's like, oh hey, we have a culture here where we aren't violent or amongst ourselves. So like oftentimes it'll be rules to enforce that, but then you see like rules in a place like Baltimore, which is insanely violent and full of rules, but
Yeah.
they're broken.
Oh, it's funny
The
because
culture of violence.
for the first like 5 years after I moved here, which I'm like very creeping up on 20 years now.
Damn.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we moved here at the same time,
It's been just over 11 for me now.
2004.
2004, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, anyway. But whenever, for the first couple of years I lived here, whenever someone would visit, like my parents or like whoever from out of town, when they would come and they would, inevitably, like the first day, you see something that's like insane happen.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, there aren't rules. We don't do rules here. We don't have those.
Right.
That was just what I would always say. And then the rest of the time they would be here, they would see something and be like, and then they'd be like, oh, right, okay, yeah, right. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't
You
hit.
can't
Yeah.
do that, and we're like, you can.
Yeah, like,
You
it's
can
just,
and
we
you
don't
will.
do that. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
It's just a free-for-all, all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nominal rules.
Yeah. I'm aware
Yeah.
of it with like walking into the street. Like
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
first classic
which
example.
I do, but that's like the thing. Yeah.
Well,
like,
then when you go somewhere else, you have to be like,
right.
oh, right,
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
I can't do
Right.
that
When I was
here.
when I was in Toronto.
Yes.
I was
Toronto's
just like, oh
crazy.
my god, you guys are
Like,
like,
you're just waiting here. There's no
Yeah,
cars.
Go
There's
to
no cars.
go to
No
Germany.
cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They have
culture.
signs
That's
At
how,
the
that's how
intersection,
people live.
certain intersections in Germany, they have signs that basically say like, don't cross at the wrong time. Like, set a good example for the children. Basically, like says that on a street sign.
Oh my god.
You know what though? Their
Set-
shit fucking works.
Set a good example for the children is not a bad motivation.
No.
Yeah.
To do something
Yeah.
like that's like a better appeal to like in
Yeah, you need
interior
things like-
morality.
right.
That instead of just saying don't do it because
Right.
it's against the law, say like
Yeah.
That's how the
like
United
maybe
States
don't
does
do
it.
it so that kids don't think that it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Of course,
like
now we live in a culture where it's like, what are the kids doing? That's what we should do.
Yeah. Exactly.
What are they? What is
do
that?
kids want to do?
That 10-year-old looks cool. Let's
Yeah.
Well, and so rules don't work right now more than other points in time, I think, because culture/time is moving so quickly. Like I
I
had
don't agree anymore.
The rules are
with what I said.
obsolete instantly.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Like at one point you could
As soon as
Like the
you're
Egyptian-
organized enough to have a rule, it's over.
right. Whereas before, like your culture was going to last for maybe 3,000 years, so you could have rules that made sense for that long, and then it got shorter, where it was like 200 years, and now that like our parents were the first time in our culture's memory where like culture had moved on between generations, and their parents couldn't impart wisdom to them.
Yeah.
And now our parents are saying to us, no, I get it, the generation gap, I totally get it. But like, it's not just that we're a whole unit
like
of culture removed.
micro.
We've had three
Yeah.
cultures.
It's like
occur.
so micro.
technology.
It's like every year.
And each culture, like Thomas Jefferson, when generations were a thing, said we need a whole new set of rules every 20 years, but now we need them every year.
Yeah.
Which is, nobody can do that.
Yeah,
No.
that's just a bureaucratic.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just
You think
doing.
Congress is going to make a whole
It's just
new...
doing itself. It's
Yeah.
just doing
We
itself.
need to recognize that manifest destiny was just a thing we made up, and there's no reason for it to be one country.
In fact, it was a horrible idea.
It was.
It was a terrible sin.
that murdered millions of people.
Yeah.
Although now
Yeah.
we're getting to the part where I'm going to be like, the concept of ownership needs to be completely abolished.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty
let's
much.
get
Personal
4 or 5
ownership, communal
countries on this-
ownership, nobody owns anything. And if you think that you own something, you're lying to yourself and somebody is charging you to own it.
Yes.
I say this to Matt all the time. When I'm like, you think you own your car and your house, you asshole? And then he's like, you gotta get out of the truck or I'm going to kill.
It's all going like into
You go to get
subscription
something
model.
with it for a
Everything is going to a subscription
Yes.
model, so it's like there's not even an illusion of owning.
Well, and like the car that you're making payments on and the house that you are paying taxes on, you really need to rent those out to strangers constantly. Like if you're not using it right now, you need to be making money off of somebody else using it right now.
Yeah.
Like it's just absurd. It's
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah.
Don't own things.
Well, there's no way
Kaiser
for
method.
people who already
cat.
have made the most money to make even more money unless they find new things to
Rent.
Yeah, to rent.
Exactly.
Permanent renter class.
Yeah.
And every
Well,
year.
no one younger than us will ever own a house like ever again. I mean, yeah, that's like already happened.
I mean, they will, but they won't be called Americans. You know?
Or
It'll be
houses.
like when once everything's fragmented, people might own something, but it'll be after.
A country of squatters.
Yeah.
Basically, like, oh, we found this abandoned house. We live here now.
It is wild how I've been thinking about cyberpunk lately, but specifically Snow Crash, which I feel like is the most prophetic cyberpunk book, and it is the satire of cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Because like they're just like things that happen now. It's like this was a joke. Neil Stephenson made this as a joke.
Yeah.
Why are we doing it in real life?
I mean,
This is
I didn't
insane
see
to me.
I didn't see the movie Idiocracy until like 3 or 4 years ago. I saw it like way late.
Oh, I'd like to.
And I watched it and I was like, ooh, this is a little close for comfort. This is
Yeah.
like actually very real.
That's
like,
why half of
I
that
think-
movie wasn't made.
I was like, oh my god, like I'm not really sure like if this I think
I
if
mean,
I had
that's
seen
it's just a series
saw
of
it, like,
scenes that's
14
joined
years
with a
ago.
voiceover. Like the movie is like you're watching it. That's a bunch of episodes. It's not a full movie.
I have like trauma from being in this Dairy Queen in like nowhere.
Oh,
Texas,
Kenny's
Texas.
always talking about this.
And it
We
was-
were on a trip
It was idiocracy.
road
It
trip.
was like
Yeah.
people eating hard tacos, like looking at their phones in a Dairy Queen in a methed out
In like
town
a
Texas.
fucked up
Eating
town.
tacos in a Dairy Queen? You
It
can
was-
do that?
It was fucked.
But
The
everyone was
vibe
like,
in this
"That's
place
so-
was
That in and of
Everyone
itself
was
doesn't
so
seem bad,
obese.
but I could.
And
the
it was so
vibe
filthy in
probably
there. It was
is.
just like trash in the corners.
It was really depressing.
That's
It was
cyberpunk.
really depressing.
Welcome to Costco. I love
But
you.
and Mike Judge is from Texas, and I can kind of I'm like,
Yeah, that's the thing. He's writing about what he knows.
Yeah.
I love you.
No, but I saw
I'm all,
the
but the thing, I'm always thinking about. I'm always thinking about. It's what plants crave.
It's what plants. Man, that. Ever since I watched that movie, I feel like so weird when people are like, "I'm sick. I need some Gatorade." Like I was.
Yeah.
I feel like secondhand embarrassment entirely just because of that movie made me go, "Oh yeah, it's not medicine."
It actually works.
It's scientifically designed to hydrate, to super hydrate you.
No, when
it's-
people are like, I'm
Because
sick,
it's got
I need
electrolytes.
ginger ale.
What plants
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what
it's
plants
more than
crave.
just
Some Canada
electrolytes.
Dry.
Right. That's why the electrolytes hydrate you, because they're electrolytes.
Well, I think that's left over.
Plants
from,
need
like,
more than
from
electrolytes,
ginger.
and
Like,
nobody's
actual
drinking.
ginger,
Oh,
when it probably was
Baby
made
this is a
plants.
trick.
Right.
I'm sorry that I call it.
No, Gatorade's
No, there's just a
It's
science. It's just a fascinating thing because there's a
Your
it is
brain-
medicine.
Your brain might.
I'll
be
say.
like, hooray.
Gatorade is a kind of medicine, and if you have a disease and you only consume the medicine for that disease, you will die.
food is medicine.
But like,
food is medicine and Gatorade is food.
I mean, food is
No, it really makes you feel better though.
So you're
It
saying
actually
it
does.
hydrates you more than the equivalent amount of water?
Yes.
No.
Well, technically
I think
that's
that
true because water doesn't contain electrolytes. Like it's not only
You can
Gator.
get
Like you don't
electrolytes
also
in a lot
don't
of
have to
places.
have like
It's salt.
incredible amounts of
Electrolytes are
sugar in
just
it.
salt.
No,
Yeah,
there's minerals and like different ions in there too.
I mean, I meant salt in a breath.
But I just want to step in.
The
I
four
want to.
humors.
I wanna
Like,
step in and say-
electrolytes are present in the liquid, and they cause you to feel better.
When
than
you
if
don't
No,
feel
but
good, drink some fucking Gatorade and tell me how you
No,
feel.
I'm gonna tell you that. I'm gonna say this though. I'm gonna say I would
The
like
same
to
thing
step
happened
in
with
as the
vitamin
middle
water, too.
path here, which is to say I fucking hate Gatorade and I will never drink Gatorade. I think it's the most
Yeah, I don't
disgusting
drink
thing
it.
in the whole world.
The yellow
But-
one's
That's
good.
fine.
Even when I'm sick, there's just no fucking
I
way.
do like it.
But it does. Gatorade does have electrolytes in it, which does make it hydrate you more than water.
But there
but-
are only specific
but-
circumstances where that's
but-
valuable.
But
Right,
but
exactly.
but the insane amounts of sugar that are in it
Right,
are
yeah,
not
right,
necessary
right.
for that to happen. Like it's not Gatorade
Encounter-
that is
yeah.
like I mean
You
Whatever.
can get like, you can get
Although-
like Pedialyte
yes,
or
I'll
whatever,
go along
you know,
with
and
this.
that
Yeah.
does the same thing.
yeah, or you can make you can make like electrolyte
Yeah,
water.
totally. Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to step in as a middle person
These
between these two.
electrolytes, they sound kind of like salamanders.
the mini chlorians, right?
they're not though. They exist.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
What about free radicals?
What about toxins?
Antioxidants.
What about orgone?
I'm
not
very.
a thing
I'm
at
totally
all.
pro orgone.
I'm also very pro
Yeah,
organ.
Thank you.
Orgone's rad.
Yeah.
I'm
Got
good
a
for
tail
that.
of free
Rad and
radicals
real.
right here.
A little too free, if you
Oh,
ask
which
me.
that's free. I gotta go to sleep so I can go to my job so I can get up and go to my other job.
But there's other products available.
It's like we're on the BBC.
With
But
electrolytes.
you can
With
just like leave a
similar-
cucumber in water overnight and you get electrolytes.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's better ways
But
to do that. than
if-
Gatorade.
I do think
But
that
if you wake up
Gatorade
with a
is
fucking
fucked.
hangover,
I'm not
Gatorade's
like
pretty
look.
fun.
I
You
like
can't pay me
Gatorade.
to.
I'm not-
You can't pay me to
you
drink
stumble to
Gatorade. There's
7-Eleven.
I think there's
happening.
more
And get
sugar in
yourself a
Gatorade
Gatorade.
than almost
I'll say
anything
this: if
else.
anybody wants to
Probably.
pay me to drink
No, there's
Gatorade, I am
more
down.
sugar. in it.
Not me. Not
we
me.
need a sponsorship.
But also, you know what I drink when I feel sick? Coca-Cola. Because I'm from Atlanta.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
that's what they tell you is medicine when you're a kid in Atlanta.
Because
And
it was medicine.
started out
It was
as
medicine.
It
It's an
was.
herbal tonic.
It's
But-
not.
Were they giving you
Yes,
the
it
syrup?
is. Not anymore.
But there's something
No,
to be
I
said.
know.
That's what my parents
There's
did.
something to be said
It's
for
an
just
Amaro.
having your
It's
special
soda.
little drink or whatever it
Right.
is.
Oh yeah,
your-
I
your
recognize.
snack
I
or whatever,
recognize
just
that it.
makes
I
you
also.
feel better.
I also
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
recognize that it is
Okay.
100% placebo.
Yeah, and if it, but
Yeah.
it fucking works.
It does.
Placebos
Yes.
work.
Yes. I'm also very pro
It's
placebo.
the
Oh, I've read a fascinating thing about placebos where they were doing a study on how well like placebos work the more complicated it is. You know, like if I'm giving you a shot that's more mysterious than say putting a band-aid on you so it works, the placebo effect works more. And one of the most complicated things that we don't understand is the placebo effect. So when you tell people this is going to work because of the placebo effect, it works even more than if you lie them and tell them this is a real drug.
That's awesome. That's
Yes.
so cool.
Yeah.
The
That
thing
is
that,
real.
kind of the thing that works the most is the placebo
That's
effect.
magic.
It's
That's
magic.
literally
That's
magic.
it's
Yeah,
magic.
it's you put it
It
into
is.
the mind and the mind does the work.
This is the source.
And if you talk to a doctor who's not engaged in this study, they get very mad.
I have a,
like
I have
placebos
a,
work better than your
I
science.
also have a whole like ritual around my like because it's not just a Coca-Cola, it's a Coca-Cola and saltine crackers.
Mhm.
And there's
yeah.
like a whole
Saltine
way that
crackers
those
for
things
sure.
interact and like a method to
I
how
love
they are
this.
consumed.
This is great.
See, I only eat saltine
But it- and
crackers
it's
as a
also-
form of
And
sweet.
it's also the only thing that works.
For me,
Here to
I
tell you.
got probably a few go-tos that really.
Nope, not for me. That's it.
For me,
When
it's
I was a kid-
Alka-Seltzer
100%.
and the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my special
Oh,
little
and
thing.
Green Gables for me.
Good.
That's
Good
that's
Lord,
the
Elsie.
feeling
When I was a
of it.
kid, it wasn't saltines. It was my mom would melt little pieces of cheddar cheese on Ritz crackers in the toaster oven. I don't think anything has made me feel better than
That's
that.
so cute.
Yeah.
For me, it's drawing a dick on a wall that I don't own. If I feel bad, I just gotta do that until I feel better.
It might take 10 times,
Yeah.
10 different walls, of 10 different strangers, but eventually
10 different
you'll feel
dicks.
better.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear that.
Well, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right, we
On
did
the
it.
dot.
Wow.
We did it, you guys. We talked about most of this chapter.
We
also.
absolutely did.
We
I'll
did
take
more
We
than
didn't
usual.
talk about Rook like I asked.
Okay, we'll get to him next time. We'll
Yeah.
Make a
Yeah.
note.
He's the outsider.
Make a little note.
Wait,
we'll
who-
get.
what
No,
is
no,
Rook
don't
doing?
start it now.
No,
Don't
no,
start it
yeah.
now. We'll remember it. We'll
Or
remember
it
it
is
for
a
next
Rook.
time.
I'll make a little
Yeah,
note.
that's in the. Yeah, I was just
Okay,
reading about that.